But the red really indicates what we're dealing with here: Galena, Sunbury, Harlem, and Johnstown at 1204. All right, let me clear this because we're going to go back to another view, and I need to.
And as Ben's doing that, Ben, let's give Ben a second to get that set up. Todd, can we bring up that shot over there by Polaris? So this is the ODOT camera that's over by Polaris Parkway. You can see obviously the camera is mounted and it's shaking around like crazy. There are sheets of rain coming down there on the highway right now. We don't see any indication. We don't see any light flashes, anything like that. You see the lightning flashes, but you see the power is on everywhere around here. That is a good indication that there's nothing on the ground at this moment. But again, if you're in the Polaris area, for these folks that are driving through, are very dangerous right now. If you're near a hotel in that area, there's many hotels around the Polaris area. It's a holiday weekend. If you're in the hotel, you want to get to that safe spot in the hotel as well. The lowest floor, you want to get away from those westward facing windows. If you've got a room that faces to the west or the south, you want to get away from that because obviously big windows in the hotels, you get hail that's driven into those windows. That could break that as well. Again, if you're in Westerville over towards Sunbury, the Polaris area, you want to take cover right now. You are under a tornado warning that extends past midnight tonight for that area. Again, Ben, you can see that cell, pretty dangerous looking cell crossing Alum Creek right now near Berkshire Township. That'll be crossing I-71 just north of Polaris heading in towards Sunbury. We've also got some heavy rain that's falling across most of Franklin County.
Right, and Dave, and I'm literally, I don't know that we've ever had quite so many warnings at once in a long time, so I'm kind of rotating around because folks are in different areas dealing with different storms. By the way, a tornado confirmed near Vandalia, and that would be this cluster of storms, and that's right now. That's one of the cells heading toward Jeffersonville and the other by Huber Heights. So these could get into Fayette County, and they're moving at about 35 miles an hour. Those are dropping to the southeast. Again, we have the tornado warning until midnight for the storm rotating near Polaris. Galena 1147 for the core of that storm. For the cells over Franklin County, and Dave, while you were showing cameras, I was looking for rotation signatures. I don't see that the way we saw earlier. Yeah, so perhaps the rain-cooled outflow, which is so extensive now, in other words, there's just so much rain going on here that it's essentially cutting off air that might be trying to come in and spin. On the other hand, when you see storms off by themselves, and that would be the storm in Pickaway County, also one of the tornado warning, which includes Franklin County, that's a different story because that one has unimpeded inflow. In other words, the air can rotate. And in fact, I'm going to go in tightly on this over by Asheville and Walnut. If you look just to the south, this is an area of concern right here, again, where the air may be spinning across the south central and central portions of Pickaway County. The tornado warning, of course, goes up into Franklin County, but it looks like the majority of this storm is going to push into western Fairfield County, near and south of Canal Winchester and over toward Carroll. So that storm, because it is freer to tap energy from the south where we haven't had rain, potentially that supercell has more danger, as do these literally back-to-back or twin supercell storms, rotating storms by Cedarville and Huber Heights. And again, as quickly as they are moving, we've got to watch northern Fayette County. They're going to pass a little bit south of Madison County, but northern Fayette, northern Greene counties, as this cluster of storms works its way southeast. Sliding back to the north, I'm trying to keep an eye also on what the National Weather Service reports are. I haven't seen any additional indications of a ground truth, in other words, where we have a ground confirmation. Put the tracker on the core of these storms again, moving through Franklin County, and it's pouring, of course, across the northern portion of Franklin County. The storm that had rotation near Polaris is now the lead storm, but there are just so many cells here. Here's the Polaris storm, Galena 1146, Johnstown 1203. So that's why the tornado warning goes until midnight. Into Licking County, by the way. The tornado warning includes Johnstown, so you're hearing sirens not only in Delaware County, but also in portions of Licking County. Here's another strong storm over by Pataskala. So that
newly issued tornado warning for Franklin and Licking County. That does include a cell that's basically directly overhead right now of Ohio State University, so right over campus at this time.
So that's this storm right here. I just had a tracker on it, so now and we had shown a little bit of rotation. I don't know if we can see that in the radar winds. It's kind of tough sometimes, but this is what let me clear this, because here again, there are two areas of concern where we have red and green, Dave, right here. So this is near Ohio State. Here's another one, Powell, Dublin. and here's another up around Sunbury. So all these little vortices, this is where there's some spin in at least in the atmosphere, where potentially, and that's, in case you're wondering, that's why the tornado warning boxes are where they are. So we located 3 different centers of spin in Franklin and Delaware counties, each one of these, and that's not even including what's happening to the southwest. Colleen?
You know, you guys have been talking about so far here in Franklin County, we aren't seeing anything that's been confirmed on the ground, but I can tell you, I'm hearing from viewers all over the place who are heeding these tornado warnings from Dublin, Reynoldsburg, Blacklick, Dublin. Hilliard heard some earlier, but people say they are hearing the warnings, so hopefully they've got that Storm Team 4 weather app on their phone so they can get to a safe place and not worry about watching us on TV right now. Stay safe, get where it's safe.
Sirens also going off in Grandview.
Right, because in Franklin County now, that changes the perspective. By the way, the storms, Dave, are moving east at 35 miles an hour. So we're looking really at the eastern half of Franklin County will be the recipient. I'm putting on different trackers here. This, as we said, the storm is right over Ohio State. And of course, we're just north of Ohio State here at NBC4.
So we could probably use our tower cam if possible, Todd, and see what the tower cam looks like out back of the backyard right now and see if we can see anything to the west or the southwest of us right now. It's obviously a good indication still is you can see a lot of light on the ground, a lot of electricity still on the ground right now. So we're not having power flashes anywhere on the ground showing up. This is we're scanning around in the skies. You notice obviously there could be a couple of spots, it looks like, right in that spot where there's some power missing there, because we're in a fairly populated area around here. We bring the radar back up again.
Also, Dave, we should say that we've heard it was like a 99% power outage in the city of Dayton. I think they've had some.
They have
serious damage.
over 4,500 customers are without power right now.
4,500, you said?
Yes, over 4,500.
Over in Montgomery County. Now, the southern storm.
Fairfield, Franklin, and Pickaway on the south, that has been allowed to expire by the National Weather Service.
But the northern part of Franklin County, that includes.
For the cell that was right over us, Ohio State, which is probably now pushed east behind the Polaris storm, that is still a tornado warned storm into Licking County.
And that's basically near the Linden neighborhood right now, and that's going to continue to move. So if you're in Linden, if you're in Minerva Park, if you're near Clintonville, New Albany, Gahanna, you want to make sure Blacklick, you want to make sure you are in your safe spot right now between Highway 70 down near Etna to 161. In this corridor, basically, you want to get to your safe spot immediately. You're under a tornado warning that extends past midnight tonight for this area, and this is a very dangerous cell. This is going to have very strong gusty winds, frequent lightning, the possibility of hail, and also, obviously, with a tornado warning, we have the possibility of a tornado with some rotation showing up with this cell. So again, that is a very dangerous cell. Also been off towards the east, that same cell that we've been watching coming out of Dayton. Now they've issued a severe thunderstorm warning for it as well, but that's going to be a cell that into Fayette County in the near future we are going to have to watch very closely, because that is going to be a very dangerous cell. You notice we've got very heavy rain and thunderstorms all the way up 71 from Galena towards Sunbury, back down towards Westerville. Parts of Westerville, basically all around you, is under a tornado warning right now. You've got 2 clusters, one to the north of Westerville near Galena right now, that's moving basically parallel to Lewis Center Road up in that area. That will be moving towards Johnstown. We've got another cluster of storms crossing I-71 right now between Clintonville and Linden. This is going to continue to move just south of Minerva Park. It's very close, though, so you need to be in that safe spot immediately if you're in Minerva Park, if you're over into New Albany.
The National Weather Service is looking at this storm too and indicating that this was part of the Polaris rotation. It is now in the vicinity of Sunbury, but whatever it is pretty broad here, because I think there's just so much rain out there that's kind of consuming and swirling, but it also makes it dangerous because rain-wrapped storms can't be seen. Of course, everyone should be in their safe place right now in Franklin, Delaware, and western Licking counties. But essentially, these storms are moving east-northeast at about 35 miles an hour. So now it doesn't mean the storm is over, the portion that's rotating, but you're still dealing with potential heavy rain, frequent cloud-to-ground lightning, and small hail. The hail size has not been overly impressive. And we don't want to lose track of these storms. I'm going to slide this way up to the north here because the storm heading into Fayette County has a tornado warning also. This is until 12:15 for Fayette and southwestern Madison County. So this is also brand new. So we'll add that to our crawl information. But you can see the tornado warning. The red box has gotten into southwest Madison and western portions of Fayette County. As I mentioned earlier, this was part of one or two storms that had tornadoes on the ground, including around Vandalia, which is on the back edge by Huber Heights and Dayton. There's just so many storms here, and each one of these develops rotation. Boy, you can really see here what's happening right in there. This is the area I'd be concerned about as that storm moves into the northwest corner of Fayette County. So not the front end here, but this is where there is undoubtedly some rotation. I mean, this is what we call almost a, let me put that back on, a classic hook echo here. In other words, air spiraling in like this. So you have the rain coming out this way, and then you have the inflow. And you know, this area, and I'll zoom in a little tighter now that we've identified it. This is between Cedarville and South Solon. So that's moving into northwest Fayette County. And again, we can just keep going to so many different storms. No longer a tornado warned storm east of Circleville, heading into Fairfield County, but still a very powerful storm. And that's going to move into Lancaster.
There's a new tornado warning also for Fayette and Madison County.
Yeah, so, and that's the storm we were just looking at. Yep. That's it. So again, starting from top to bottom here, we have tornado warnings in southeastern Delaware County, just south of the city of Delaware, includes Sunbury, where the Weather Service is picking up rotation. That goes into northwestern Licking County. Tornado warning number 2, which goes until 12:15, as I click on the boxes, is for the eastern portion of Franklin County, and it looks like the threat has, for the moment, ended in western and southern Franklin County, but eastern Franklin County into western Licking County. Again, no longer a tornado warned storm in Pickaway, but still a powerful storm. And Dave and I have been talking about this one because this has had a confirmed tornado. Southwest Madison, northwest Fayette counties, coming out of Greene County to the north and east of Xenia. So every one of these, and if you were in the red boxes, you should be in the basement or lowest floor and taking cover.
And here's the other thing too, Ben, is that as you've been talking, I've been getting alerts and looking at radar and stuff. Obviously, we've got home weather stations. I've got a home weather station. Mine's showing 4-inch-per-hour rainfall rates. I live up in Sunbury in Delaware County. So the other thing that you've got to be very careful of is if you're trying to drive away from this storm, you're not going to be able to. We are seeing blinding rains, heavy amounts of rain, so roadways are going to be flooded over when you're getting 2, 3, 4-inch-per-hour rainfall rates that are dumping 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. This is very intense rainfall, and that's going to continue to push off towards the east. So if you're in Licking County, if you're over in Johnstown, that is going to be a very dangerous part of the storm. There's a newly issued tornado warning now for Fairfield and Pickaway counties down to the south. Fairfield, Pickaway County for a storm right near Circleville. You see that right there, Ben. You can see it right here.
Yeah,
on
they
radar.
Just reissued. So here
Yes.
they dropped the warning, and now they've reissued it. And we kept saying this still looks like a pretty potent storm.
Move that up just a little bit
east
so
of
they can see it.
Asheville toward Lancaster. So now if you're in the city of Lancaster, you need to be heading for your safe place, because this is yet another storm that's rotating. If we look at radar wind here, let me find a better way to look at that. There's the core of the storm right now, which is now moving into western Fairfield County. And again, you see all these kinks and twists in the wind shear. So that's an area that we worry about. Let me go back to the traditional view again, or the conventional view of radar reflectivity, as we call it. We were looking at velocity mode to look at the spin. But so again, the back edge of these storms, Dave, in every case, it's been the back edge where we see rotation. Then we get the hail, and of course, out ahead of it, the heavy rain. And that's because to the south of these storms, there isn't much going on. So the inflow or feed of warm, moist air, which is undisturbed, is coming up in this direction. That's feeding into all these cells that are rotating. But where the rain has gotten more spread out over, say, Licking County and Franklin County, that starts to cut off some of that inflow. But these storms are still dangerous. And I want to look at the storm up by New Albany, because that core is pretty strong. And again, it's hard. I'm trying to keep this above the banner. But let's go over to Colleen for more information.
Yeah, we are now seeing some pictures that are coming in from the Dayton metro area. Walls collapsed. It looks like one home has sustained, at least in the video I'm looking at, has sustained heavy damage. And we continue to get reports that people are trapped in the Trotwood area, in the Dayton area, the places that you guys have been showing us where the worst of these storms went through within the last hour or so. It looks as if there is some catastrophic damage that's going to be left behind from these storms. And Danielle, I know you've been
we're seeing reports of multiple structures that have collapsed with people trapped right now.
Around Dayton in Montgomery
Dayton
County.
area. And as I said, we're also just hearing from people here, right here in the core of central Ohio, that they're just seeing heavy wind damage, some trees down, that sort of thing. Not a lot of power outages yet here, but we're keeping an eye on that.
And Colleen, to what you just said, I've just zoomed in on a heightened wind speed just to the northeast of Ohio State and over in the Linden area. So our radar is showing 70-mile to maybe 80-mile-per-hour winds in here. So this storm, Dave, and I'm going to have to slide this up, has actually gotten a little bit stronger, and that's very concerning.
Yes, yes, big time if you're in Gahanna,
Again,
Blacklick.
And what we're doing, folks, is we're finding we have all these tools which, you know, rather than looking at broadly at these powerful storms, we can really zoom in street level and find where the radar algorithms are picking up either rotation or strong winds. So, Dave, I'm going to move this around a little bit.
Yeah, you can see this north of East Columbus, basically 5th Avenue over towards Taylor Station, Blacklick. This area is going to be right in the concern. Again, that's 60 to 80 mile per hour wind showing up as the storm threat. The purple color on the backside, the potential of seeing quarter to nickel-sized hail as well. Ben, one of the other areas I wanted to look at was down near Green, Fayette, and Madison County line. It appears that cell, I was looking at it on radar a minute ago, that's that same cell that was coming out. Yeah, it's down here. If we can move the map up, there we go, perfect. You can see in this area, this cell is getting stronger again. So if you're near Jeffersonville in Fayette County, if you're near South Solon, Jeffersonville, Midway, Range, Bloomingburg, you have minutes, that is it, to get to that safe spot immediately. Notice the colors in here. We've got red and yellow indications showing very strong winds. The possibility, Ben, I almost think I see an orange indicated right inside there. If we zoom in close enough, that is an indication possibly of 100+ mile per hour winds. Yeah, in this orange color right here, you can see just south of, to the south and southwest of South Solon here, this orange color right here, that's going to indicate, I think, 80 to 100 mile per hour winds possible right in that area. And you notice that is also showing the BTI, or the tornado index number, at a 5. When we've seen that number at a 5 or larger this evening, that has been a confirmed indication of a tornado. So again, this cell is getting stronger. If you're near South Solon, if you're near Range, Midway, over towards Jeffersonville, you need to be in Fayette County in your safe spot immediately. This cell is moving to the east at 33 miles per hour, 100% possibility of hail. Very likely that we have $half sized hail falling with this. So at minimum, you're going to have extremely strong gusty winds, large hail, and I think the possibility of a tornado as this cell seems to be getting stronger again. This was the same cell earlier that did produce a tornado near the Dayton metro, and that has produced damage all the way since through parts of Greene County and then continuing over into Fayette County right now. So again, that tornado warning extends until 12:30 tonight for Fayette County. Ben, we still got that strong cell that's moving out of Franklin County into Licking County. That's another one. The tornado warning is continuing now until 12:15. That cell near Gahanna, that is moving to the east at 35 miles per hour. That cell near Gahanna, that is a very dangerous cell as well. That will continue to move into Licking County. So if you're near, let's say, the Easton area, also moving over towards Etna, Whitehall, New Albany, just south of New Albany is going to be really bad, just south of New Albany, and then eventually moving into Licking County by just after midnight tonight towards Granville. That's going to be a spot, and then eventually towards Newark, a spot that you're going to need to take cover as well. So if you're in Licking County right now, if you're in Newark, if you're in Granville, you're not technically under this warning yet, but again, you just have minutes to get ready and get to that safe spot. If you're in Pataskala, you need to get to your safe spot at this time as well. You are right on the edge of that tornado warning, and this cell right here, very dangerous cell, that's going to continue to move to the east at 35 miles per hour. Not only could it potentially produce a tornado, also up to quarter-sized hail, and on some of these, like that cell that's moving into Fayette County, Ben, that's showing the possibility of up to golf ball-sized hail.
Right, and Dave, we have a tornado on the ground by Fairborn, so that would be the second of these two cells moving essentially into Fayette County. So it's really two supercells here and here. The one behind it we know has a tornado in it, and this one again has a pretty strong signature just to the northwest of Jeffersonville, getting ready to cross Interstate 71. Of course, you're hearing sirens over eastern sections of Franklin County. This is the tornado warning, and I'm going to zoom in a little tighter. 12:15 for Franklin and Licking counties, and then down to the south, the tornado warning until 12:15. I'll have to move this up for Lancaster. This is Fairfield. Fairfield County, easternmost Pickaway County is just about cleared of that storm. But Fairfield County, Franklin County, Licking County, I mean, Dave, we're talking about core populous areas that are under tornado warnings where you need to seek shelter in addition to the storms. And these are moving off to the northeast. The storms with confirmed tornadoes north and west of Fayette County are moving to the southeast.
And Ben, that northern tornado warning for Delaware and Licking County up by Johnstown, the northwest corner of Licking County, that has been expired. So that tornado warning, you will see this one right up here. This will be popping off any minute now. It still does not mean that you're out of the danger zone. We have to keep an eye out if you're in northern Licking County. Obviously, you see how this cell right here is shaped. That's going to continue to push towards the east-northeast. That will be crossing Highway 13 here through Newark, moving up towards Utica. You need to be careful if you are in that area because that is still a very dangerous cell. This cell is moving away from Sunbury now towards Johnstown and Utica. I still expect to see frequent lightning, heavy rain, and hail possible with this. But as Ben was mentioning, these are going through very populated areas, some of these cells. And as Danielle and Colleen talked about earlier, the cell that moved through Dayton, you know, there's not a lot of spots for folks to get around to and to hide, especially if you're out on the roads. So you need to, if you're out to the east of these cells, you need to take caution now. Realize that if you're in Coshocton County, Muskingum County, down into Perry counties, you're going to have these cells in your backyard soon. You can see down into Fairfield County, we've got this very strong cell, Ben, that's now moving into basically right into Lancaster. We've got that cell, and that should be in there any minute now.
Right, and some of the particulars, Dave, the heart of the storm moving into Lancaster here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, Thurston in the next half hour, Pleasantville the same. So I want to do several things here and then throw it to Colleen. A real tight look at the storm in Fairfield County, where you can see the hail core, the heaviest part of the rain. And then, Colleen, we're going to zoom back into Franklin County to see the powerful part of the storm up by New Albany and Gahanna. But it's raining hard in so many places and so windy, it's hard to tell.
And we've got to hope that the tornado doesn't touch the ground as it has done in Dayton. We are now getting reports of catastrophic damage there, buildings on fire, people trapped. The roadways are covered with debris, so they're having trouble reaching people who are dealing with very heavy damage. It sounds as if a tornado hit a heavily populated area of that city. Danielle and I have been following these reports. People are reporting police scanner information about all of the trapped people and the fires, the sparks, that they can't get to them. The tornado was apparently on the ground there, Danielle, for quite some time.
Yeah, it says that people, although people took cover and they're in their basements, they're now trapped in their basements and their houses are now sparking fire. And it says that police cannot get to that area because of the power lines on the road. And it says people are trapped between Salem and Westbrook streets. A lot of people are just naming the neighborhoods where this really hit hard, and it seems to be, like you said, a very populated area.
Catastrophic damage there. So we are also hearing, as I said, from people here in central Ohio who have been watching you, following the line of this storm, and telling us they are hearing the sirens. They are then going for cover. So far, though, what we're hearing here is downed power lines. We're hearing about some trees, some minor property damage so far, but nothing like a tornado on the ground, at least so far, from what we're hearing from our viewers, Ben and Dave.
And the reason why, Colleen, I've just circled again, we're going into some higher technology that we normally don't tap, a velocity mode showing broad rotation in the northeastern corner of Franklin County, red and green, not too tightly intertwined, but boy, Dave, this is not good. Right here, and I'll zoom in tighter, you know, in Lancaster, Fairfield County, the rotation is quite a bit broader, but we want to come back, and I'll put back on the traditional view to see if we can pick up what's happening. So this is where, again, the rotation can be aloft. It doesn't mean a tornado will come down, but it really highlights where the danger is, or the most dangerous part of the storm, even without some classic tornado signatures. But from what we just indicated, where we see the cores here, the purple, some of the deeper red, so that's New Albany, heading over by Havens Corner. There was some definite rotation on radar.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was getting a little tighter. So that's why the tornado warning continues until 12:15 for at least eastern Franklin County and western Licking County. And
that'll be extended through Licking County most likely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if we go back to that cell that's down to the south, though, the same one that Colleen and Danielle were talking about, that cell down to the south in near Jeffersonville right now, that cell, again, you notice all of these, we have thunderstorm warnings from the Dayton Metro, tornado warnings through parts of Greene County, also through Clark County, and then southern Madison County into Fayette County. We have got tornado tornado warnings in this area. This cell has shown an indication of getting a little bit stronger again as it's moving towards Jamestown right now. So if you're near Jeffersonville, if you're near Milledgeville, West Lancaster, these are areas that you need to be very, very careful and head to that safe spot immediately, because this is going to be a very dangerous cell as it's moving right into Fayette County right now, north of Jeffersonville. You need to be at that safe spot immediately. As Colleen and Danielle were talking about an hour and 20 minutes ago, when this cell moved through Dayton, it caused catastrophic damage. We're getting reports in from the Dayton area of a lot of major damage to well-built structures, buildings that are in that area. And you notice right here, Ben, look at this, north of Jeffersonville, where it's showing almost a straight line path right there of 80+ mph winds possibly in that area. And that's going to continue to push off basically to the east-southeast at about 30-35 miles per hour.
Right, and Dave, and boy, again, this shows you how tight the rhythm is here, or at least the algorithms. Let me clear that. Again, you can see where the strongest winds are over Gahanna right now. So that storm over the eastern portion of Franklin County has some wind shear just past the airport. That's the strongest wind that we have in the metro. Now, not all this wind may be making it to the ground at these speeds. That's what radar is detecting.
Did you see the Pickaway? The Pickaway storm tornado warning was canceled for Pickaway County, but it was continuing now for Fairfield County till 12:15. Also continuing for Fayette and Madison counties. The possibility with that storm, that one down in Fayette County, possibly up to, and that's this cell right over here. That cell showing the potential of up to golf ball sized hail with that. That's the same cell that has been very dangerous through the night tonight, with tornadic activity being confirmed off towards the west with that. So if you are in Fayette County, the northern half of Fayette County, north of Washington Courthouse, basically the northern half of the county, you need to be in that safe spot immediately. This is a very, very dangerous cell. It does have the potential of producing some very large hail and a tornado with it, a large tornado possible with it, as well as it does appear that cell is getting a little bit stronger as it is pushing off towards the east. We've got another cell moving across 33 right now in Fairfield County near Lancaster. That's going to continue right up 22 basically. That'll be in Thurston at 12:29, towards Pleasantville at 12:30. But again, you need to get to that safe spot now. We are warning you now to give you time to get to that spot so you can be safe. This cell should continue to travel south of Buckeye Lake, but between Buckeye Lake, basically near Pataskala right now, and Etna, we've got another strong cell that's moving out of Gahanna, and that's going to continue to move over towards Granville, Pataskala, Newark, and then eventually cross 13 and continue down 161 and 16 here over in towards Coshocton County. So again, we have tornado warnings that continue until 12:30 for Fayette, Madison counties. We've got another tornado warning, a second tornado warning that's been issued to the west in Clark and Greene County. So Ben, another cell that has been closely watched off towards the west, another cell. So once this cell moves out of Fayette County,
then there's another one. So and that's why I'm basically going around to showing you each of the different time frames for the rotation in these storms. And that storm near Yellow Springs has a deep rotation and the threat of a tornado here. And then we jump over to Fairfield County, and you can see again by putting the tracker, while the storms heading into Fayette County are moving southeast, the storms in Fairfield and out of Franklin counties into Licking County are moving slightly north of east, but there are some different time frames to look at. So there are the tornado warnings until 12:30 for Fayette County, until 12:15 for Fairfield County. And again, I'm using a slightly different radar, so it's less messy and easier to see where the worst portion of the storm is. And we're still hearing the sirens outside our studio, so most of Franklin County, you are hearing the tornado sirens. Also up in Licking County, you can see the storm moving off to the east. And about 26 miles per hour. So every one of these is intense, but the core here of this storm, which is in western Licking County now, moving out of Franklin County, has got the strongest wind. So that's crossing the Franklin County line. So right in here, and it's pretty obvious where you see the strongest winds, but also some of the colors. So again, we'll go back to our regular radar position, and orient everyone. If you're in western Franklin County, the storm threat is moving off to the east. But there's just so many embedded storms that have been rotating consistently right through here in eastern Franklin, western Licking, over by Lancaster, and these two are even stronger because, again, you have unimpeded inflow, warm, moist air from the southwest. So, Dave, yeah, that is going to be a tornado warning for Licking County until 12:30. The storm was located over Summit Station, moving east at 35. So let me clear the screen again, and then I'll let you point that out. But there's Summit Station, and I'm going to put that up high.
Yeah.
Again, we've been following this storm all the way from Ohio State, across Minerva Park, south of New Albany, into western Licking County, over by Pataskala.
Yeah, so you see right here this tornado warning, this newly issued tornado warning until 12:30 for Licking County. Doppler radar indicated rotation. Obviously, we've been watching this very closely. This rotation basically near Pataskala right now, crossing up 16 up near Granville. This box extends from the Licking County line all the way through Granville, Newark, Heath, Heber, and down towards Buckeye Lake. You are under the tornado warning. Not over to Hanover yet. Alexandria, you are under the tornado warning. If you are in this region, you need to get to that safe spot immediately. Gusty winds, possible tornado, hail to the size of possible quarter-sized hail, 1-inch diameter hail, and the radar is indicating out of Columbus, radar indicating a possible tornado right to the west of Pataskala. So, Ben, if we could turn on that Columbus, the CMH radar right there on the top here, and see right in this area, if we click on that, it's kind of difficult to see just to the west of Columbus, right in this area. We're looking at, or west of Pataskala, and that's just south of New Albany down to 161, and that's going to continue to push off towards the east.
And Dave, check this out here too, up by Blacklick.
Yeah, that appears to be possibly, that's reflectivity right in there that we're looking at.
Yeah, so very, very intense angle. And now I'm going to give you the rotation.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it right there, west of Pataskala, right there, right along 16, coming up Broad Street, right there.
It's a very small zone. Let me draw that again, and then we'll zoom in. This is how we, again, identify
where the ins and outs right there, where that little twist is in the colors, right in there is what we're looking for. And you can see that little, I mean, we're going basically about 1.5 miles off towards the east-northeast, north of Summit Station. And what is this, Taylor right here?
Yeah, Havens Corner, just north of Broad Street, just east of Taylor Road. And just, yeah, so.
And going up 16, and it's going right up 16 towards the terminal Doppler radar site. So if you're in Pataskala, you need to be in your safe spot immediately, right this minute, because this cell is continuing to push to the east, northeast at about 30 to 35 miles an hour. That's going to go right up Broad here and right up towards Pataskala. That is showing rotation. We could see it right here on radar, so you need to get to your safe spot immediately if you are in Pataskala. You need to get to that lowest room of the house possibly, or an innermost room if you do not have a basement, a bathroom, a closet, something that does not have windows to the outer portion of the house.
And Dave, it definitely helps to use radar. This radar is in Pataskala.
Yes.
The terminal Doppler radar. So that's why we're getting such a great view here, which again, now here the rotation is not as strong.
Yeah, you could see more of a straight line wind, but still a very dangerous right along here. You could see little tiny blurbs of red here. That's where we've got little eddies or little circulation spots that are starting to pick up right along this line. And we have to watch very closely. Obviously, that's why we're watching this, for that rotation to start to pick up a little bit more. And that would start to bring that right into Lancaster. So again, very dangerous cell down towards the south in Fairfield County as well.
And David, take a look at Mount Sterling. And here again, we're seeing
this
some
cell right
indications
here.
of rotation.
Yeah, that's that same cell that we've been watching for the last couple of hours now. And in fact, that cell has produced some very large damage off towards the west. I want to toss it back over to Colleen Marshall for a minute. You've got some of the pictures that are being shown right now on social media.
Now, keep in mind, this is just along I-75 near Dayton. We're hearing there is catastrophic damage there. In fact, the Montgomery County Sheriff has said he's never seen damage worse in his entire career. This is just some of the highway damage. And I know, Ben, when you go out and look to try to determine whether or not it's a tornado, you look for signs of rotation. There is debris wrapped around a pole here along I-75. Lots of damage. We're being told most of that highway is closed right now. Oh, I made that a little bit too big now. If I can make it smaller. But again, these are nighttime pictures, so we're going to show you as best as we can what we're seeing. And I saw another one down here as well. Oh, this thing, I keep making it too big. Here we go. More damage along the highway. As you can see, the roads are closed. A lot of emergency vehicles are out there. And Daniela Vitable has been, as we have a sister station in Dayton, WDTN, Daniela Vitable has been trying to get some information from them. We've been told they have crews on the way. There's one reporter, though, that has been posting some things on Twitter. Danielle, did you find something from her?
There is a reporter on scene right now. It's saying we can't play this video in the browser.
But we do want to let you know that we've had reports in Dayton that people are trapped, that there are fires burning there, that they've had heavy damage. Again, the Montgomery County Sheriff saying, Dave, it's the worst damage he's seen in his career.
That is unbelievable. I mean, we watched this tornado move across the Dayton Metro and Montgomery County. We saw this earlier. I want to alert folks now. We have Ben right in here, a newly issued tornado warning now. We've got two newly issued tornado warnings, so let's wrap these up. First off, we've got one down in Fairfield and Hocking County. This extends until 12:45 this evening. This is for the same cell we have been watching very closely. If you're in Lancaster, if you're down in Brenham, over towards Rushville, Pleasantville, basically Somerset, Junction City, all of these locations down in the south, northern Hocking County. If you're moving into Somerset and parts of Perry County, you're not under the warning yet, but you need to take caution immediately. These cells continue to push to the east. They are dangerous cells. They have been producing very strong gusty winds, hail, also the possibility of Doppler radar indicated tornadoes with these as well. So rotation showing up. This cell, possibly some smaller nickel to quarter sized hail. Ben, we've also got a newly issued tornado warning for Fayette, Madison, Pickaway
and Ross too.
That's a large, and it's a fast, that's another part of that cell, the back part of that cell that's starting to move through. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, whereas the National Weather Service had initially indicated that there was some indication of weakening of the supercells coming out of, the tandem storms coming out of Greene County into Fayette County, but they're ramping up again because they're getting some renewed energy up from the south. I keep pointing out these little notches are very important because they tell us where not only rotation is, but to the south where it has not rained, it's warmer and more humid. It's
more
also
unstable.
Right, and we also have a warm front, which is a boundary that's sitting right off to the north here. And so that boundary is kind of where everything comes together, and these storms follow it like a highway. So while storms to the north are probably weakening gradually to the north and east of Columbus, except for Fairfield County, everything to the southeast has a free rein here because it's got open air. In other words, warm, moist air, nothing to block it. So these storms are being refueled. As it were, just sort of like at Indy 500, these storms are tanking up again, and so we're going to see them pulse up and down and continue to rotate, apparently, because they're along that boundary, the air, the wind shear, you've got air coming in from the southwest, but you also have winds from the northwest overhead. So, that's where things begin to spin. And so it makes sense that these warnings to the south have reappeared. The new ones we just talked about in Fairfield County, Ross, Pickaway, Madison counties, and by the way, for Ross County, it is the northernmost portion of Ross County in the warning, so not Chillicothe right now, but Circleville, yes, and also Washington Courthouse. And this one, of course, was the tornado at Fairborn, but you may continue to hear sirens, and by the way, the same for eastern Franklin County. The tornado warning is still in effect. It's now 12:15. Right.
That should, that just appears like it just expired. So right now we could take that banner off, guys, in the back there. There are no more tornado warnings for Franklin or Delaware counties. As soon as I say that, though, again, we have a newly issued another tornado warning that's been issued for Clark, Fayette, Greene, and Madison counties until 12:45. So right along this same line. But again, Delaware and Franklin County are now not under a tornado warning. We have active tornado warnings for Licking County. This is basically the western portion of Licking County, extends all the way through Newark. We've got tornado warnings in Fairfield County, including Lancaster, and then down to the northern portion of Hocking County. That extends all the way up to, basically butts up to the eastern edge, or the western edge, I'm sorry, of Perry County here. And that extends, that tornado warning extends, I believe, until 12:45. You notice the speed on this at about 45 miles an hour off towards the east. We've got very high likelihood of hail, generally about a nickel-sized hail. Tornado index at about a 2.5 on this, meaning there's a low chance of a tornado in here, but again, still good enough of a chance that we are watching for broad rotation in here. We've seen it near Lancaster as that's moving away right now. In fact, you notice then we've got additional severe thunderstorm. We had a severe thunderstorm warning. Now they're all just tornado warnings in that cluster. And Ben, that's going to be a very dangerous line of storms, because not only is, in Fayette County and in northern Ross County and in southern, most of Pickaway County now, are you under the tornado warning in this area, but you notice those tornado warnings extend like 65 miles back to the west. So you've got a train, not only training of heavy rainfall, but you're training of multiple very dangerous storms back to back to back, moving into parts of northern Fayette County, southern Madison, over into Pickaway County. So if you are not there already, or if you've gone back upstairs for a few minutes, you've gotten out of your safe spot, you need to head back there immediately, especially if you're in Fayette and Pickaway counties. Ben, that is going to be a very dangerous area for the next couple of minutes. I want to toss it back over to Colleen for a minute. Colleen, you've got some more video, I take it?
Well, I think Danielle was able to call up. This is a reporter, Kristen Esco. And Danielle, what are we looking at here? I know you've been following this. It looks like
right now we're seeing a lot of storm damage in the Trotwood area. They say that neighbors say there are structural damage. Right now you're looking at a lot of debris. There's firefighters in the area, and here's another video where you could just see a lot of police presence in this area. We're told that people are being told to park and then walk to the affected area. You could see debris just covers the roadways right there. A lot of toppled trees.
We know there's also widespread power outages. As we said, I-75, at least for some time this evening, was closed. Debris scattered everywhere. I know, Ben, you and Dave are going to be here for the next several hours following this, but we wanted to let you know in our newsroom we also have crews who are headed to the heaviest damage areas. We will be following this through the night, not only with you on the air, but at NBC4i.com as well. So good luck, you guys, tonight.
Yeah, Colleen, I want to put the time lapse on this because I think we all need to see the direction that these storms are moving. They're kind of moving off to the southeast at about 35 miles per hour. But here we go. Now, just kind of get a sense. You can see the storms are starting to pull away from the I-71 corridor in the Columbus metro area. I'm going to let that lapse a few times so you get oriented, depending on where you're watching us from. Because not all the storms are moving exactly in the same direction. They're moving in easterly track up around Columbus, but southeasterly down into Washington Courthouse. But
they're almost turning back to the east just a little bit here. They're kind of flattening out a little bit right in this area. You know what you could do? Grab the pen tool and just draw a line on all these and kind of show the direction where they've been tracking. Because as Ben was mentioning, it's difficult. I mean, there is a lot to look at on here, and they're all kind of moving in slightly different directions. The stuff through Licking County is basically pulling off towards the east-northeast. These cells down by Fairfield County, those are generally pushing east, and then these cells are sliding a little bit more east-southeast. And the stuff up in Delaware County, that's starting to pull north as well, a little bit more northeast tonight. So we've got a lot of different motions on these, and it's not as simple as just looking at a radar and just saying, hey, all this is moving east or northeast. It's not all moving in one uniform direction.
Right, and Dave, I think the answer to that is, I believe, from doing analysis while we've been talking, there's a low pressure area in the mid-levels here. So what that's doing, it's got a broad counterclockwise turn. So there, we call them, there's a fancy term, convective vortices, but they're essentially up in the mid-level, the air is turning broadly, and then you get these meso or mini-scale rotation centers off to the southeast. So I'm going to raise that a little bit higher for you, but that's what's happening. That's why you see this broad circulation. So you have the air is turning over a good portion of central Ohio, kind of one big merry-go-round, and within that, again, things begin to spin on a smaller scale, and that's where the tornado warnings are, and then the rest depends upon smaller boundaries. So again, just to reiterate, we have so many warnings here. 12:30, and I'm going to have to go in tighter. So
here, you want to take over, and you could just point at them.
Why don't you? I'm going to
give you a second
around the corner here, starting with Licking County.
So over here in Licking County, we've got this tornado warning that extends until 12:30 tonight. So for about another 10 minutes in Licking County. This does include Johnstown. This does include Alexandria, Newark. Down to the south here in Fairfield County, this tornado warning extends until 12:45. Not as big of a concern for hail with this, mainly nickel-sized hail possible. Again, that extends all the way through basically the northern hat right there of Hocking County, and then over towards the edge of Perry County. If you're in Perry County, New Lex, over towards Somerset, you need to take caution too. You need to take extreme caution with this storm, because that is going to be moving into your backyard. Basically, it extends till 12:40, 12:45. after 1 o'clock tonight. I know it's late, but you want to make sure that you get to that safe spot. Better safe in this indication. And then down to the south here, and Ben, we're going to have to move this map up just a little bit here to get it out of that boundary there. But you notice we've got multiple tornado warnings with this cell. We've got it looks like 1, 2, 3, at least 3 different tornado warnings here. The furthest edge basically covering, this would be Pickaway County and northern Ross County. That's until, hey Ben, thank you very much. Back on this one, this is a 1 o'clock tornado warning, so that extends for another 39 minutes there for Fairfield County and Pickaway County and northern Ross County. The Fairfield County tornado extends until 12:45. Then in Fayette County here, that tornado warning extends until about another 9 minutes or 8 minutes until 12:30 tonight. Although the storm behind it.
Yeah, Western Fayette till 12:45.
Yes.
It's a train of supercells, of rotating storms.
And I know that sounds confusing why one's until 12:45. Basically what's happening is these storms are getting warned on each one of these cells individually, and they're issuing tornado warnings for the amount of time that it's going to be in that box. And so they keep issuing new warnings. We're going to continue to track basically this corridor from outside of Dayton, north of Yellow Springs, all the way north of Washington Courthouse, just to the north over towards Circleville, to the north of Circleville. You're going to continue to see very strong storms. If we could zoom in right here down into Pickaway County, Ben, if we could center that up a little bit. Thank you very much. You basically notice this line north of US 22 here. Worst part of the storm right here near Mount Sterling right now. That's pushing almost due east. That's going to be Mount Sterling, Commercial Point, Asheville. You need to get to your safe spot immediately, as that is a very dangerous cell, and that's going to continue to push to the east right now at 36 miles per hour. Minimum, I would expect that you are going to see some very strong gusty winds and some hail with this. You notice the hail size at about 3/4 inch diameter, so nickel to quarter sized hail roughly. The tornado index pushing near a 3 here, so there is rotation showing up. Mount Sterling right about now. Darbyville, again, Darbyville, 12:40 tonight. Commercial Point, 12:46, and South Bloomfield at 12:51. As we back on this line, you notice very strong storms all the way down near Bloomingburg along 62 here. Jeffersonville, we've got another strong cell between Jeffersonville and Cedarville here. Ben, if we could turn on the Barron button, the storm threats there, because I want to see what that's showing as far as the hail indication, the possibility of seeing some very strong gusty winds. There we go. And you notice near Mount Sterling, this cell right here, that pink color, that is about 1 inch diameter hail. Notice the red shadings here. That's severe winds, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. We've got the same thing. And as Ben was mentioning, on the back edge of a lot of these cells, that's where we've seen that rotation. You can see it just south of Cedarville here and north of US 35. That's where we've got that showing up a little bit of an indication of a rotation right there. And that's going to be moving right into Jeffersonville. Ben, this is an area that has been hit multiple times.
I've just never seen so many storms follow the same path, but with rotation. I'm going to point out a few more here. This one is the Fairfield County warning. First of all, Rushville, 12:30, heading into Perry County. Junction City, 12:45. 70 mile per hour wind shear and rotation indicated just northeast of Lancaster and northwest of Bremen. But then we also, the National Weather Service has highlighted the cell in Licking County near Beechwood Trail.
New tornado warning for Morgan and Perry counties.
We'll definitely look at that in just a moment. There's Licking County near Beechwood Trails, Dave. That's got still some rotation. The warning there will go to 12:30. So let's follow the one that Dave just mentioned down into Perry County. Boy, look at this. And that's the storm we were just tracking out of
spotters have observed rotation with this storm. Weather Service out of
no
Charleston
doubt.
saying.
And I bet if we look at a rotation signature, and again, I got to constantly clear one element to see another here, but this is the rotation. I'm going to have to probably slide this up in just a moment for you guys.
That storm will be near Somerset, though, 12:35 as you're getting that set up. New Lexington, Perry State Forest around 12:40. This is the same cell that we've been watching. And you can see it crossing US 22 there, Ben, as you've got that set up here. Yeah. You can see this cell right in here. So if you're in Somerset, New Lexington, Perry State Forest, you need to be on alert immediately, as this is a very dangerous cell. It does go all the way into the northwest corner of Morgan County as well. That is under the tornado warning that extends now until 1:15 this evening. Now, again, as we mentioned, storm spotters that are following this have observed rotation with this storm. It doesn't necessarily mean the rotation has touched the ground yet. but that is a very good indication that you need to be in your safe spot immediately. Again, we have tornado warnings that extend through Licking County this evening. Now from Fairfield County over into Perry and Morgan counties, we have tornado warnings. We have a thunderstorm warning over in Noble County as well for the cell that's near north of McConnellsville. That'll be moving in as well in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And then we've got additional very strong thunderstorms that have had a history of producing rotation and tornadoes from Fayette County all the way back into parts of Greene County and into southern Madison County. We're also under that tornado warning down here, and that continues until, I believe those are until, well, they're until multiple times, 12:30, 12:45, 1 o'clock right in here, and that does extend from northern Madison, northern Fayette, and southern Madison counties over into Fayette County and over into Pickaway County. Again, if you're in this area, if you're near Mount Sterling, if you're near Circleville, Amanda, Asheville, you need to be in your safe spot. If you have family, friends in that area, grab your phone, grab whatever you can, a flashlight, a blanket, head to that safe spot, a basement, a lowest level of your house. If you do not have one of those, we're looking at something that's inside. Most interior room that you can get to without the outside doors and windows. So that way, if something does hit, even if it's wind damage or hail, hits the outside, you have more walls between you and more space between you and the outside of your home. These have been very dangerous cells that have been moving out of the Dayton metro and across basically south of I-70 this evening. And Ben, I mean, we still have active right now, it appears on this map, 6 active tornado warnings in our backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a crescent shape. Franklin County, just to be clear, is no longer under the tornado warning, but everybody from Madison County to the south and through Pickaway and to the east and looping back into Licking County under tornado warnings for, again, this train of rotating thunderstorms. And we're also going to go to a tighter view here, or rather a wider view, just to give you the perspective. But this particular storm cluster continues to move east at 35 miles an hour. The southern portion of this line is moving off to the southeast, and the northern portion, so I mean, it just depends where you are, but generally there's an easterly trend in all of these. Let's see if I can back this up a little bit for you to show you what I'm talking about. Just so many elements here. This is the Fairfield County storm. Wind shear 80+ miles per hour. This is now in eastern Fairfield County heading into Perry County. The core of the storm, Somerset and New Lex in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So that's one of the storms we've really been highlighting. And now we're going to look at live pics from WDTN in Dayton, where we've had major damage, catastrophic damage, due to one or probably multiple tornadoes that have touched down in the Dayton area. And that's where we had storms that were confirmed on the ground, and you can see vehicles have been flipped. There's a great deal of structural damage here. Power flashes are continuing, Dave. I mean,
a lot of reports of no power in that area.
And in darkness, it is just so hard to tell. By the way, Fairfield and Hocking counties are under tornado warning now until 12:45 because the storm is near Hebron. So these are live pictures from
Yeah, I'll take that off for a minute while they get that shot adjusted.
And we need to come back to radar here. And let me zoom in. This is the newest tornado warning until 12:45. And also, well, actually now we have another for Clark, Fayette, Greene, Madison. That's a continuation until 12:45. But it's the southern storms that are strongest because they are running along a boundary with the warmest and muggiest air to the south. Confirmed tornado is near Bell Center, moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. So that's why the tornado warning continues in Clark, Fayette, Greene, and Madison counties.
Let's go back to those live pictures for 1 minute here. We're getting some good yeah, look at the damage picture.
Wow, look at that, Dave.
Look at that sheet metal just wrapped around that pole right there. And that's what's scary right now. That cell that's down to the south, that line of cells near Mount Sterling back towards Jeffersonville, that is very dangerous. That's what on radar right now. There is indication of some debris in this area. Ben, the debris was near, what'd you say, near Bell Center right now, moving southeast at 35 miles an hour. Not only that, but we also could see the potential of up to $half sized hail. So we're looking at 1.5 inch diameter hail down in this area. And again, that is very dangerous dangerous. This is a very dangerous cell, a line of cells, I should mention. We've got multiple tornado warnings right now, one coming into Fayette County. That one, Ben, is until 1 o'clock, I believe. And then the other one is, this one's until
1:15.
That's for Perry County.
Right.
What about the Fayette and Pickaway County storm? That's until 1 o'clock and then 12:45. Both of those cells, very dangerous. Near the Deer Creek State Park right now, you see that very dangerous cell in that area, down in Pickaway County. So again, if you're in these areas, we've been mentioning this, you should have been in your safe spot already. You want to get to that safe spot. You want to keep a phone with you, possibly bring a phone charger until you lose power, if that doesn't in fact happen. But again, we are streaming on air, online as well, so you guys can keep us on air. You can watch us over NBC4i.com, and we'll continue to update you through this situation. Also, if you're our Storm Team 4 weather app, it has been alerting me. I've got my phone right over here. It's been alerting me with every new tornado warning, and it is a great tool to have even when there's dangerous or rotating storms near you. So a great tool to have. Now, again,
hey, by the way, the tornado warning will continue for Pickaway and Ross until 1. At 12:30, National Weather Service radar showing a storm capable of producing a tornado near Williamsport. That's in southwest Pickaway County, moving east at 35. By the way, Franklin and Licking counties, of course, no longer under tornado warnings, just to bring you up to date. So it's south of Interstate 70, where all the most powerful storms are, and that makes sense. So it is this storm here where the tornado warning will continue for a little while longer. We're going to see if we see anything in terms of some wind shear and storm winds. See some strong outflow. I don't see. Let me come back over here. Anything, although again, the radar may be 3,000 or 4,000 feet above, but this is the better indication of where we have strongest wind shear. So that's moving through western portions of Pickaway County. There's your hail track for these storms, probably about a 5-mile swath of intermittent hail, but not large hail. The path of the strongest winds showing up like so. So again, that's this corridor of Jeffersonville, Bloomingburg, Circleville. You guys have been hit a couple of times now, and this is the overall path of the storm. Let me back this out so we can all see the time frame. Darbyville, about 12:40.
And that's a great map right there. If you could zoom it, clear this out for 1 second. So what this shows, and I apologize here, but this is an excellent indication right here. This wind shear path shows weak to strong to extreme wind shear. You notice this path right here. This is where we started tracking this around 10 o'clock tonight. And this path right here through Montgomery County into this Greene County right here, that's where we had, look at this, it's showing up as strong to severe. You can see the colors up here, this red to yellow colors right in here. That's showing most likely right that path of the tornado as it made its way through here. And that's going to be a large tornado. And then it continued through near Cedarville. You notice it got a little bit more broken here, and that shear path is a little bit weaker, but still showing some strong shear through parts of Fayette County, possibly showing that that rotation is lifted maybe a little bit, but it's not a guarantee. So you need to be in your safe spot if you're in Fayette County. If you move over into Pickaway County, you notice the shear is pretty weak in this area right now. So possible broad rotation that we're watching, but not something that's real tightly packed yet. But again, this is where these storms are right now. If we could turn the traditional radar back on, Ben, you'll see where the storms are right there, and then starting to move into Pickaway County, and that's where we're starting to see that weak rotation, that weak shear showing up, and where that tornado warning is. That's a great indicator of where all of this activity has just been training, tornadic activity training over the same area.
This may want to be the most dramatic events that we have seen in a long, long time. Funnel cloud over Greene County right now, Dave, or at least reported in the last 15 minutes. So that, I mean.
And it's at night, too, which makes it very difficult to see. And a lot of folks are without power now. That's another thing. And we talk about this with, anytime you don't want to be indoors or you don't want to be outdoors when there's a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning. Winds could be dangerous. Hail could be dangerous. But again, at night, a lot of this has a lot of rain around it. We've seen very impressive rainfall rates. Some spots have picked up 1 to 2 inches of rain already tonight as well. And I would expect in this line where we've seen very strong storms, there could be multiple inches of rain on the ground as well, making it difficult for first responders to get around. If you need emergency services in this area, that could make it very difficult, especially if there's wind damage from power lines down, something you never want to cross into. You've got to keep that in mind as well. If you are in an area that is damaged, you don't want to go venturing out, especially if there's a down power line that's sitting in a puddle. That could be an extremely dangerous situation as well. And a lot of these cells, Ben, have been producing hail as well. well. That's one of the indicators. But again, when we're talking nickel to quarter sized hail, and a normal day, that's a big deal. But today, because we've had so many this evening, we've had so many other things going on, that's kind of been a backstory so far.
Yeah, and Dave, to your point, there's the hail tracker for
Same area, look at this.
And that is consistent with the most powerful updrafts that have been spinning. That's consistent with the wind shear. And then, of course, our storm winds, which are a little less clear. However, two funnel clouds merged into a wedge shape back here. So there's been some strong rotation, and that's the Jeffersonville area storm. Again, the storm coming into Fayette County. So while here, this indicates a rain-cooled outflow. In other words, just strong winds pushing out. I don't see the signature that we had before that indicated rotation.
But Ben, you see right in here in Pickaway County, though, this is something we've got to still watch out for. Right.
Absolutely.
That's one of those things in that edge. You were talking about that earlier.
Those notches.
Exactly.
Yeah, and by notches, again, and let me clear this out, that means that you've got air flowing in to the storm. Now, this would be indicative of a notch here, and initially, I don't see the usual tight rotation, but I would estimate in this area to the west of Circleville is the greatest concern. But I do want to point out something else. This is really important. Let's go over, considering how far away the radar is, if we're seeing this, red and green couplet. Again, red wind is moving away, green moving toward radar. Between Somerset and New Lexington, there is definitely a rotation, and there's another pass.
But it could be elevated at that point, too.
Absolutely. So this is a very dangerous storm working its way across Somerset, New Lexington. This reminds me of the fall of 2010 when we had a tornado outbreak in this area where we thought, well, it's very hilly. And that's a shield, but not necessarily. We learned that time that storms can go up and down hills. So while this may be an entrance to a hilly region, we've got to watch every one of these rotating storms. You need to be in the basement. They're all tornado warned. There's no question what's happening here. And again, let me.
But as they mentioned, Ben, out of Charleston, the spotters had witnessed rotation with that cell
in the dark.
Yes. So in between the lightning flashes, they were able to
incredible. Usually you don't see it.
Yes.
And
that's not a situation for folks to get out and try to look for that tonight.
No, yeah, I mean, you're not going to see it, but you don't want to be caught off guard and in a dangerous situation. So the rotating part of the storm will be over Somerset at 1248, Crooksville at 106. So that's the northeastern portion of Perry County. For that's
tornado warnings till 1:15.
And then we slide westbound, and again, Franklin and Licking counties are now out of the woods. So we're all south of 70 on the important storms that are still producing wind shear. Again, pretty strong outflow here coming through Pickaway and Fayette and back into Greene counties, at least easternmost Greene County. So keep that picture in mind. Now I switch back to what we call our regular radar reflectivity and see how it all matches up with this again, something that you guys are most familiar with seeing. Storm number 1 with rotation, storm number 2 with rotation, and then storm number 3. And they continue to feed off the air to the south where it has not been raining. So essentially the southern storms cut off the energy from the activity in Franklin and Licking counties. They're still potent, by the way. And guys, you're still getting pounded with heavy rain and some small hail from Pataskala to Heath, Alexandria. I know we haven't paid as much attention up to the north. Give you a quick view. Some very heavy rain to the west of Mount Vernon. So that's in southern Morrow County. These storms are not warned, so that means we're not getting unusual wind shear, just heavy rainers, maybe some pea-sized hail. I know we've been focusing heavily on the rotating storms to the south, but it's just I'm going to take that wide view real quickly because, again, it gets back to what we talked about earlier. I mentioned there's a big, what we call like a vortex of sorts and a mid-level low-pressure area that's spinning counterclockwise through central Ohio, and that's what the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma had indicated. And then on the southern end, you get these rotating supercells, and they just keep triggering warning after warning after warning. Now, earlier we had them in Franklin County, in Licking County, of course, even earlier still up here. But you can see how that area is being cut off by the rain to the south. So the inflow, in other words, being blocked. So the storms can't spin. There's still heavy rainers. So checking, the National Weather Service has not put out any new statements yet. It's 12:40. Of course, we've been on the air since about 10:40. When the tornado warnings have been coming like dominoes.
Yeah.
And Dave, by then, storms had already ravaged Montgomery County and the areas around Dayton. And these cells just continue to propagate off initially to the southeast if you're in this area, although fringing on Ross County, but a little bit to the east-northeast, Perry County. So that strong storm could impact southern Muskingum and Morgan counties, because that one's moving a little bit more north of east, and that's why we leave these arrows up. Again, the times are on the core of the storm, not the beginning of the storm, but the most dangerous part of the storm. Circleville closer to 1 in the morning, and for good reason here, because I bet if we put on the storm wind again.
Yeah, you can see it right here in Perry County right here.
And it's just amazing. I mean, two things. Right here, there's a little bit of rotation here, and maybe back toward Jefferson.
That cell almost looks more like it's starting to blow out a little bit more right out here with just straight line.
Yeah, this is more outflow dominant. In other words, which is what you want. You want the rain cool there to cut off the inflow.
One after another. It should. One of the other concerns too is Ben zooming into the storm in Perry County, off towards the west, like near Dayton. They've already got flash flood warnings. 2 to 3 inches of rain have fallen, and some of those areas down to the south are Fayette, Madison, southern Madison County. That's the same thing. You could see some broad rotation here again. One of the things that Ben was looking at, and Ben, if we can click on this little skit marker right here, the orange one for me, want to see the indication of what's going on here. So this storm, and again, this isn't the front of the cell. This is the core of it right here. Junction City 1247, New Lexington 1255, Crooksville at 106. This is also showing hail potential at 100%. Generally smaller hail, nickel to quarter sized hail, and about a 3 on the tornado index. So showing some rotation in this area. I mean, most days we don't have tornado index numbers showing up more than about 1 or 2 on a severe weather day. So we've seen multiple 3, 4, and 5s. The 5s typically have yielded tornadoes so far this evening. You notice wind shear showing weak wind shear in this area between Somerset and New Lexington, moving across central Perry County this evening. This cell has basically moved from Fairfield County back into Perry County with that tornado warning. And you notice right here, just south of Somerset, we've got the purple color here. That's about 1/2 inch diameter hail, so about nickel to penny-sized hail, somewhere in that range. And then looking at these little red spots here, that's where we're showing a little bit stronger wind shear, wind gusts that are starting to pick up there, even trying to get down towards the ground. We've got another little cell that's over in Pickaway County, a little bit larger hail core showing up here with the potential up to quarter-sized hail here in the light pink, and right along 22 here, moving basically into Circleville. That's where we're showing some of that stronger peak wind showing up. And then the cell in Fayette County, where we've also got a tornado warning, I believe let's see.
Fairfield and Hocking County tornado warnings have expired.
Those have expired. And what time is this? This tornado warning goes until 1:15 here, north of Washington Courthouse for this cell here. But again, this is a okay indicator, but it is showing that there's hail right now. We're not really getting those wind, the red and the yellows and the oranges showing up for the wind threat. However, this has been a very dangerous corridor of cells. Just because it's not showing it in this one scan, it doesn't mean that the cell's not, getting a little bit stronger in between scans, and it's just being missed right now. So once we get that next scan, we may have some more wind indicators showing up there in Fayette County. So again, you cannot let your guard down. If you're in northern Fayette County, north of Washington Courthouse, that cell will be crossing 62 by about 1:05 in the morning or so, and then continuing into parts of Pickaway County. So Ben, for them, it's going to be another round of storms starting to move in tonight. But the good news for folks to the north, I'm noticing some of the tornado watches are starting to be kind of peeled away in the north and west, because the cells are not as strong to the north and west anymore. Most of the strongest cells are south of I-70 at this time.
Right, and they continue to move, Dave, off to the east. We've been looking at so many of them, Somerset and Crooksville. All right, so I want to come back to the bigger map here. Again, first, just for the broadest of perspective, north of 70. In fact, the rain is pretty much cleared Franklin County. That's pretty much done. So hopefully the rest of us from Columbus north and west will get some sleep here. And the tornado warning, of course, has been expired for the past half hour, or 20 minutes anyway, in Licking County, but still getting some very heavy rain. All right, let's go southbound again over to Somerset, New Lexington, Crooksville. Not seeing quite the strong rotational signatures that we had earlier, which would be a really good sign, because it's been just a really rough pattern. But what we can do, of course, is interrogate the storm near New Lexington, winds of 60 miles an hour, north of New Lexington approaching Crooksville, and about 1/2 inch hail. Again, hail has not been the big deal here with these storms. It sometimes is. It was yesterday when we had 3-inch hail in this very same corridor. Folks have really had it rough across basically from Laurelville in this direction. This was the hail corridor yesterday where we had 3-inch hail. Today, it's a little all the way over to Athens, a little different story. But again, let me come up here and look at some of these max winds where we have the tornado warning, first of all, for Pickaway County until 1 in the morning. So if I question that cell, it's winds of close to 60 miles an hour and half-inch hail. So that would be for the storm in Pickaway County. Right behind it, we have a powerful storm in Fayette County, not seeing the red. So in other words, we're not seeing the wind shear, and I keep moving this up above the banner. I apologize if it takes a second to get that so you get a clearer view. Bloomingburg about 11 minutes away, moving southeast at 35, so the tracker there would indicate the storm is going to pass a little bit to the north of Washington Courthouse. But
hey, Ben, do you see that new severe thunderstorm warning? They've elected to keep that as a thunderstorm warning for that same cell you were just tracking.
Yeah, Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross until 1:30 is a thunderstorm warning.
And they've canceled the tornado warning
for Pickaway and Ross.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for that. That's good to hear. So what in the big picture, that tells us the rotation is weakening in all of these storms. And again, I'm choosing a radar that it's broader, but it draws your eyes right to where we have our biggest concerns. And the other, of course, is still getting some strong winds in central to north central Perry County. Overall, let me give you some storm motion here and get you back to traditional radar mode. Let me back this off, first of all, because we all need the geography perspective to see that it's still raining up to the north. Now let's put that in motion and take a look. I'm going to give this a time lapse of about 1 hour. That's good enough for now. But the storm track has been off to the southeast, and then farther east, it's to the east-northeast. In fact, we can see how far these storms have traveled. Let me go back 4 hours, and you'll see the tornadic storms right here moving into the Dayton area. We looked at WDTN and the very serious damage. So this is the path around 10:30. That's when the tornado struck near, it looks like just to the north of Dayton. And then the outflow generated some storms that began to produce tornado warnings through the heart of the Columbus area. Let me slide that down just a bit, and also to the south. And as we get deeper into the evening, the energy has shifted a little bit farther south and east, which you would expect because of the rain-cooled air to the north. So that's been the path. So we have been the recipient of storms that came out of the Dayton area a little bit earlier. And I'm going to stop the tracker now and go back to real time. I mean, it's just been unbelievable, the train of storms that we've had to deal with. So here's the traditional view. Let me get this underneath so you can see still getting some heavy rain around Buckeye Lake, south of Newark. Still a potent cell over Circleville. Tornado warning continues for Fayette County until 1:15. The storm near Jeffersonville is moving southeast at 35. So that's still, Dave, Wilmington believes is potential to produce a tornado. You're right, over by Bloomingburg. And again, while not as dramatic, you see occasionally these little kinks in the line with these storms, probably a little transient circulations as they move east. But notice it's orange, so just a thunderstorm, I won't say just, but a thunderstorm warning for Pickaway, Hocking, and Fairfield, indicating, and you can tell immediately by looking at radar, these storms are starting to weaken a little, finally.
That is good news. Still the cell right now in Ben, if we look at the one also in Perry County, that one has been in, go to the Barron button on that to show the storm threats here, because I've been noticing, I was looking as you were dissecting the other storms, this one still between Somerset and New Lexington was showing the possibility. You can see right on the edge there, Ben, you can see that 50 to 70 mile an hour wind corridor right through there as well.
And that could be straight line winds
exactly, too. Yes. And you're starting to get some of that larger hail possibly coming out of this, but if you're between Somerset and New Lexington over towards Crooksville, southern Muskingum County, you're not technically under the warning right now, but you're still under the gun for these very strong storms. We've got a couple of them, possible hail showing up near Licking County. Again, no warning up in that area right now, but down to the south, as Ben was mentioning, there's two other areas we're watching, one near Circleville. You can see the tail end of this right along 22 there. Ben, if we could zoom into this area a little bit closer.
Sure, and while I'm zooming in, I will tell you that we have a tornado warning for Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross now till 1:15. At 12:48, a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was over Logan Elm Village, moving southeast at 40. So that's that cell
right there that you're on.
So that's brand new, Dave. So yeah, I mean, these just keep coming up.
And as we mentioned,
down.
Even when they're issuing severe thunderstorm warnings, that's basically to cover in between, possibly if one of these tornado warnings does expire. But you notice right here in Circleville, near, what did you say, near Logan Elm Village, it's moving southeast at 40. This one's moving southeast at 40. If we can click on that little orange marker right there, Ben, on that skit to show the line there and to get some information on this. So Circleville right now, 1255, it's saying, I had 1254 now. Stoutsville 104, Adelphi at 116, Laurelville at 116, and that makes its way into the Hocking Hills. As Colleen mentioned earlier, a lot of folks, it is a holiday weekend. Folks still may be out at the Hocking Hills State Park. If you know somebody that is camping in that area, you need to get a hold of them immediately. They need to get to a safe spot right away, as this is going to continue to move through Laurelville and eventually into Hocking County. Again, you notice the winds starting to pick up real strong in that area. It's showing pretty high shear at about 80 miles an hour right there. We could see surface winds 50 to 70 miles per hour. Pretty good likelihood of seeing hail, and hail size anywhere looking at about, probably about a quarter-sized hail. And again, possible rotation with that cell near Logan Elm Village, moving to the southeast at 40 miles per hour. So if you're in Circleville, Kingston, Hocking Hills State Park, Logan Elm Village, Stoutsville, Laurelville, Tarleton, down towards Bloomingville, Pickaway County Airport area, basically Rockbridge, Hallsville, all of these locations, you need to get to your safe spot immediately, as this has been a very dangerous storm as it has been moving off towards the southeast, and it's moving a little quicker now than they were earlier, now at 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, and Dave, and it's interesting how we briefly went down to a thunderstorm warning, as we said, and 5 minutes later we're back up to a tornado warning. So as these storms pulse up and down a little bit, what we call they cycle, in other words, the rotation cycles, so it can break down a little and then redevelop. And that's why we have had to stay with these for so long, but they've been remarkably persistent and resilient on the southern edge in particular. Again, I'm going to back this out so you can see the trio of tornado tornado warnings with multiple counties.
And this atmosphere has basically been primed through the evening hours for this development.
Even though it wasn't all that warm today, but the humidity rose in the evening. A warm front set up along the northwest of I-70 and US 33, and then that became the highway for storm after storm after storm. Now, of course, with as you normally see, a southward trend in the storm motion. So back to the reflectivity mode, or in other words, a conventional radar picture with the warning superimposed. And I'm going to have to widen that out a little bit. And again, up to the north, sorry, I know we haven't spent as much time on the heavy rain in Mount Vernon heading into Coshocton.
But again, that's not severe. That's one of the reasons.
Just heavy rain, yeah. We have to really, because it's such a dangerous situation. Normally we're dealing with maybe one tornado warning at a time, but not 4, 5, 6. And you can see again from Circleville into Logan, Hocking County. And I'll put a couple of trackers on these, and Dave and I have been watching all the numbers come and go. Wind shear, boy, about 80 miles per hour. Hail potential up to 1 inch in diameter. Of course, yesterday we had 2 to 3 inch diameter hail. Laurelville in the path of this storm at 120. So that's that one. And then, of course, the trailing storm, which had a tornado on the ground at least once, if not twice, and had 2 funnel clouds form a wedge. According to a spotter in the dark, they could see Bloomingburg 1255. So we know it has been tornadic at times. And then, of course, we've been looking at the Perry County storm over and over again over by Crooksville. But I'm seeing so much rain, Dave, around this.
Yes.
That's going to cut off the inflow and make it just a heavy rain.
I still think that cell near Circleville is definitely the most dangerous one that we're going to be dealing with right now. And you can see, if we could zoom into that pretty close, you can see that cell. That's the one that's had a new severe thunderstorm, or a new tornado warning that's been issued just to the southwest. You can see that cell right there, just southwest of Circleville, basically a mile and a half to the southwest. And that's going to move just south of downtown Circleville. It does appear this is getting a little bit stronger. So if you are in Circleville right now, if you're in Stoutsville, you need to be in your safe spot. You do not need to be going outside. You do not need to be looking out those windows facing to the south and southwest. This is a very dangerous cell. There could likely be a tornado right in this area just south of Circleville, and that's going to continue to move to the south and east at about 40 very quickly, so into Tarleton before about 1:05 this evening. Again, this is showing movement right now at 36 to the east-southeast, hail size between a nickel and a quarter size, and a tornado index pushing 3, so that number has gone up a little bit. Again, it's going to be right into or just south of downtown Circleville in the next couple of minutes, and this cell is going to continue to push off towards the east-southeast at 36. So that would take it near Stoutsville at 111, Laurelville at 122. So Tarleton, you're looking at about, for this part of the cell, about 116. But again, Ben, if you could put on a distance tracker right over here for me real fast and do Tarleton right to the front edge of this right here in this cell, and you're looking at about 8-9 miles away right now. So you're picking up at about 15-16 minutes away, so at about 109 to 113 range that you're going to see the worst part of this cell moving right into Tarleton. Again, we could have very strong gusty winds. We could have nickel-sized to quarter-sized hail and possibly a tornado. As you can see this notch starting to develop right there.
Yeah, and Dave, this is scary right here.
Yes.
See this? I mean, there's your hook echo. So again, I know we talk about it a lot. You have inflow here, and again, red moving away, green moving toward the radar site. But what's important is that means air is coming in rather strongly. This is the rain-cooled outflow. That's going in this direction. So this is where, and I'm going to draw that.
That's again. Right over Logan Elm Village, right over it right now.
So what happens with these cells is that the rain and the cooler air is pushing out, but the interface is right here where it's running to air going in. So by nature, that's going to begin to spiral, and the tighter the column, and I bet if we look at this in another mode, we're going to see, let me see if I can find another view right there. It doesn't get any clearer than that. So this is I mean, Pickaway County, this is very dangerous a situation, because just south of Circleville, you probably have moderate rotation going on, and this is going to be something that obviously everybody needs to be in their safe space here just especially
Logan Elm Village is right. I mean, it is right.
Boy, it doesn't get any tight. This may be one of the tightest couplets we've seen. Again, green and red coming together.
It's coming right over that Walmart just south of downtown Circleville along 23. Right. That's over on the east side of 23 right there, not far from where the Pumpkin Water Tower is in that area.
Right. Now remember, radar Wilmington is somewhere over here, a little bit off to the left. So if red is away, that means the wind is blowing this way, and then in this corridor here, air is coming back toward the Wilmington radar site along the length of the radar beam. So again, that is, and I'm going to have to zoom in a little tighter so we can see where this storm is strongly rotating. If we go street level again, just south of downtown Circleville, Dave was giving you some parameters. It's obviously east of Williamsport, north of Kingston, but south central Pickaway County, and again, this would be the overall motion toward Adelphi and Laurelville. This storm is trouble. It's got deep rotation. And I know, Dave, earlier we had, and let me clear this and back it out, we also had a funnel cloud reported by spotters here. National Weather Service by Bloomingburg. So again, that different cell, same idea. You know, it's amazing. Again, I'll go back to the looking at radar the way we usually see it. So you can see those two cells, you know, lined up back to back. But you know, in each case, you know, there's obviously a very clear-cut hook echo. There's a little bit of a notch there. That's where I would suggest the spin is. So that's, again, that doesn't mean there is a tornado, but it means a tornado could be hiding in these spots or could be developing. It may not reach the ground, maybe just a funnel cloud, but either way, but it would happen so quickly, as we saw in the Dayton area, you wouldn't have time to take cover. That's why you need to be taking cover now. I want to also recheck, because there have been some changes here in Muskingum County, thunderstorm warning. Yeah,
those are all thunderstorm warnings over into Noble County's thunderstorm warnings. The tornado warning still extends here, I believe, in Perry County until 1:15, so for another 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, actually, 1:15, you're right, Dave, and the thunderstorm warning till 1:30 for Noble County. And just to reiterate, the thunderstorm warning into Hocking County until 1:15 and 1:30, tornado warning till 1:15 in Pickaway County. The tornado warning for Fayette is until 1:15. That tornado bearing storm potentially is over Bloomingburg, moving east at 35 miles an hour. So again, I mean, just so many to track all at once. That would be this
let's
storm
keep
here.
a really close eye on this one, Ben, because this one just seems extremely dangerous right here south of Circleville right now. That's crossing near Logan Elm Village. That's going to be going down County Road 16 right there. As Ben was mentioning, this is showing obviously this scan right here near Hayesville right here, the Circle Hills neighborhood right along County Highway 16, Washington Meadows. That cell, obviously, as Ben was mentioning, the radar scans up, so this could be right above the ground that we're seeing this at 1,000, 1,500 feet that we're seeing this rotation showing up, but it has been showing up right just to the south of Circleville, just to the north of Logan Elm Village. If we can click back on that orange one again for a second there, and you notice that the tornado index still showing at about a 3, a 2.8 right now, but very likely that we have hail, at least small to moderate sized hail with this, and it's going to continue to move to the east-southeast at 36 miles per hour. That tornado warning extends until 1:15 tonight. But again, if you're along County Road 16, if we could zoom back into this area right in here, Ben, if you're in County Road 16, Circle Hills neighborhood, moving over towards, basically off towards the east, right along State Highway, was that 150 right there. We've got very strong, 159 right there, over towards Tarleton. This area, really, you need to be on very high alert because this does show good indication that we have rotation showing up here at a minimum with strong gusty winds moving right through Pickaway County, south of Circleville, south of Stoutsville, but some very strong thunderstorms moving into that area.
Yeah, and Dave, the National Weather Service says radar indicates a probable tornado right here. So whether it's on the ground or not is impossible to tell at this moment. But you have
the rotation showing up even more on velocity. You could start see if the velocity how the velocity looks in that, because you can see that rotate. Yeah,
it just does. I mean, it's unending. I mean, this storm just continues to rotate as it works its way into southeast Pickaway County, away from the city of Circleville. But you know, we keep going in on this because this is a dangerous storm. This could wind up on the ground as a tornado. We just don't know. It's dark. You can't really see it. It may just happen. But the spiral, inbound, outbound, red, inbound, green. So this just continues to rotate. Now, back here, this is a broader rotation. But I mean, this is just unbelievable how strong that particular storm is. I'm going to have to back this out again. Also, you can see the weaker of the two cells out by Bloomingburg in Fayette County. So, I mean, if the National Weather Service, I mean, they feel strongly there could very well be a tornado, if not on the ground, very close to being on the ground. And this is good, Dave. We're going to look at possible debris ball.
Yeah, right in this area, if you could.
Wow. Yeah, because
so yeah,
that could be lofted debris when you see a blue-green speck just to the east of a hook echo.
Right in this area right there.
Yeah, the fancy term correlation coefficient, but what that means is a radar is seeing something that's not rain. So these are solid targets, not liquid. Now again, it's very hard to interpret. It doesn't mean there's a tornado on the ground, but we have to presume the worst here, that this is again just now south of Township Highway 16, Caldwell Road, heading into the vicinity of Kingston. Let me get you back to the view so to orient you. Again, that storm continues to exhibit a strong rotation, possible tornado. We have to assume the worst here. Adelphi, Laurelville, about 120 on the timing of that storm. It continues to show every single, check every box for trouble. When you see an inflow notch, again, that matched up where we saw possible debris when we looked at another mode, the dual pole as we call it. Let me get back to a couple of other ways of looking at the storm. Wow, look at the wind. So again, in Pickaway County, this is a very dangerous storm. I hope you have a basement or lowest floor away from walls and windows because this storm is just not winding down at all. The shear here is indicating about 70 miles per hour, a little bit less to the southeast. But again, these markers, if nothing else, don't worry so much about the numbers. It tells us where to be concerned. In other words, where the strongest winds are, whether they're rotating or outflow winds or both. And that is the case. You can see also back behind this what we're dealing with a storm that maybe is weakened a little bit, but a hail producer near Bloomingburg that had a funnel cloud and maybe a possible tornado coming into northwest Fayette County. But right now we know it's just a hailer. Everything else, including the Perry County storm, has weakened. There's some indications of hail up by Buckeye Lake, and also some strong winds up by Buckeye Lake too, by the way. So that storm, while it's no longer a warned storm, you're still getting some good outflow out by Thornville and Millersport. Against everybody in this cluster of storms, which is clearly making progress to the southeast, you have to be on guard. But we do have to really focus on possible tornado here southeast of Circleville that'll pass near and a little bit to the north of Laurelville.
Radar's giving great indication of a tornado, of minimum rotation.
Oh my goodness! Wind shear continues to climb upwards of 80 miles an hour. That's rotational wind, by the way. Now it's above the ground, but still, a very a scary situation in the sense that we treat these. As if
right
may be
in
it.
here, and it's moving right towards Tarleton right now. I mean, that's if you're in Tarleton, you need to get to that safe spot immediately. I mean, that is a very dangerous cell that's moving. It's going to be moving right up Highway 159. Basically in that area. It may just clip to the south of Tarleton, but if you're in Tarleton, you know someone that lives along 159 crossing 56 right in that area, you need to get to that. You need to tell them to get to that safe spot. You notice the hail path not showing a lot of hail continuing over past Circleville with this cell, but we've been watching very closely and the tight rotation showing up in this. If we can click on the shear rate button right here, or the shear path, how about that one, the shear path there, Ben?
That's told us everything you need to know.
And remember, we showed this a little while ago, and you could see how it kind of broke up a little bit across northern Fayette County and into Pickaway County. Now we're starting to see the shear. And
92 miles per hour, Dave.
Yeah, and that's the highest it's been so far inside of this storm.
It means it's intensifying.
And you notice the shear path right here south of Circleville starting to get into this strong to nearly extreme area right here. That could end up putting down a pretty sizable storm with a tornado with it. Again, moving towards Tarleton. It's moving right along Highway 16, State Highway or County Highway 16 at this time through Pickaway County. So the Fayette County storm.
That has expired.
That has expired.
Fayette County. And we showed that one had weakened too, as has the Perry County storm weakened. So really, and let me get you back to.
This is going to be the one we've got to watch closely.
This is, I mean, everything else, because the rain has cut off the storm, the inflow to storms, Perry County, although to point out, Perry County is still under tornado warning. I don't want to.
But that I mean.
So 115.
Yes, but the bulk of that storm has moved into southern Muskingum.
Correct.
And also into northern Morgan County a bit.
Yeah, and the tornado warning does include northwest Morgan. But I mean, the storm of the hour here is, while the tornado warning for the moment only goes to 115, that's 8 more minutes, but I don't see that tornado warning going away anytime soon. And the trailing storm, as we mentioned, as Dave said too, that is still of some concern. It's moved out of Fayette County into southwest Pickaway County, so you still have 2 very potent storms moving across south of US 22 through Fayette County. It's just amazing how these storms have maintained their integrity, even running through some rain cool there, but of course they may be building in from the south. Adelphi and Laurelville, same areas that had the 3-inch hail yesterday. You're directly in the path of this storm, which is moving very clearly off to the southeast at about 25 miles per hour. We also have a flood advisory for Delaware, Franklin, Licking, Madison, and Union counties for all the heavy rain. Tornado a warning for Fairfield, Hocking, and Pickaway now till 145, 107. That storm was producing a tornado near Tarleton, moving east at 30. So that's why the polygon has expanded into southern Fairfield County, and also to include Hocking County. This is all for the same storm, Dave, and we're looking at again to see if we have a debris ball.
It's difficult to tell on this.
Very, very difficult to tell. If there is, I don't see anything, but the rotation marker, that has matched up. At least some very strong shear.
That number's gone up to a 4 point.
That's dangerously high.
Yes, that is. So we've been looking at these tornado markers. You could turn back on the traditional radar, but leave this data on for a second here. I want to show you guys, again, this cell that's moving away from Circleville, away from Logan Elm Village this evening, east-southeast at 36, shear at 80. Here's the thing that both Ben and I were just mentioning, the tornado index number here, 4.8. We have seen this number throughout the night tonight. Every time it has gotten at least to this high, we have had a tornado confirmed on the ground so far to go along with that. So this marker showing it goes up to a 10 is the highest, and that is a good indication of a tornado, of rotation, possibly producing a tornado here in Pickaway County. And that's starting to make its way over into Hocking County. So if you're in Hocking County, you need to take cover immediately. This is a very dangerous cell. If you're near Tarleton, again, that is a very dangerous cell moving right in towards your backyard. Again, Logan, the Hocking Hills State Park, Star, Laurelville, Tarleton, Tarleton, Buena Vista in Hocking County, Haydenville, Lake Logan State Park, Union Furnace, Rockbridge. So we're starting to move over towards the east a little bit more. This is a very, very dangerous cell. And Ben, this is about the most dangerous one that we have seen locally tonight, it looks like, in our area, outside of the cell that we saw the indicator in Dayton a couple of hours ago.
Right, and it's that kind of storm. And Dave, the sheriff's office and local police in Circleville said 2 semis were flipped over near Love's, one of the stations. I know where that is.
Just out there.
Off 23,
yep,
as that storm crossed. Again, we don't know the full nature of the damage. Whether
could be straight line.
And it could be straight line, and it won't be till the light of day. But at this point, it doesn't matter. We treat this as a potentially dangerous storm because we've seen tremendous damage in the Dayton area. So we know we have the wind shear. Put on the rotation marker to see about 7 miles east of Circleville where the strongest rotation is. Where it's
coming right into Tarleton now.
Yeah,
right,
so it's moving away from the side of the river. The trailing storm, by the way, north of Clarksburg is also of some concern right here, although it hasn't shown quite the wind shear. It certainly has the hail core, though, right there. And I'm going to have to look at that again. But let me basically take a couple of things off here so you can really see, just to keep it simple. There's the storm by Tarleton and Amanda, and the other storm southwest of Williamsport. The red boxes are the tornado warnings. So that kind of gives us the overview.
There's multiple tornado warnings across this area. I mean, bottom line, this cell right here, you have to be on alert. If you're in Laurelville, if you're in Tarleton, if we could turn off that shear marker there, Ben, that's basically right over Tarleton, though, right there. We're showing rotation with this cell, and it's moving to the east-southeast, thank you very much, to about 35 miles per hour near Laurelville. Logan, you need to take caution right now, Ben, and look at those winds starting to pick up, showing some hail potential and winds in excess of possibly 70 miles per hour on the ground. Again, the bigger concern, obviously, is the factor that we could have a tornado. You're starting to get into hillier areas out there as well, and it's going to make it more difficult, obviously.
If not impossible,
yes.
Yeah. And just assume, and as we've said, I said many times tonight, it doesn't matter if it's a tornado or straight line winds. 70, 80, 90 mile per hour winds are going to do a lot of damage, whether rotating or coming out in a straight line or both, because we've had both. So we treat all of these as dangerous situations. We knew it was going to be a very rough night, and even before the storms hit the Dayton area, we talked about this earlier in the newscast, that we were in an unusually high and enhanced risk area, which has been extended farther and farther southeast. But these storms have shown remarkable resilience to regenerate. This particular storm, again, that has had deep rotation, is now approaching Tarleton, so we got to go street level on that. Just south of Stoutsville, I know these are really small, Township Highway 65, 44, State Route 158, have been on all of these, and they are small roads. Of course, you can't see this stuff going on at night. Still getting 80 plus mile per hour wind shear or rotational wind. At least above the ground. Storm tops around 36,000 feet, as Dave mentioned, a BTI. So it's nearly 50% risk of a tornado. That's very, very high, actually. And this is the path of the storm. Let's go back. You can see it'd be nice if some of this outflow came around and cut off the inflow, but that hasn't happened yet. So you still have an inflow notch, as we call it, a notch in the storm, actually a cup, although it may be starting to cut off a little bit, air trying to come in, but hopefully the rain cool they're wrapping around the storm will cut off the inflow, which if you're wondering what that means, that would start to ease up on the rotation.
It does look like from the velocity scan that it's starting to weaken. It's showing a little bit.
Oh yeah, it has. You're right.
It has, but we should also know that this cell has had a history of doing that, where it's gotten a little bit weaker. Remember, about 40 minutes ago, we had this severe thunderstorm warning that was issued for this cell only because the cell had been weakening. And again, that's a big deal still. Severe thunderstorm warnings are big deals, but tonight we have had multiple tornadoes and tornado warnings across our area. So we've been watching this. You notice the wind shear has gone down a little bit. Normally we look for the colors in the red and the yellow here in that wind shear to really be picking up possibly for rotational winds there for tornadic activity. That has weakened a little bit. I'm not convinced yet that this cell has not produced a tornado and is not producing one on the ground at this time near the Tarleton area. area because of that rotation we've seen. But this is a little bit of a good indicator that Ben was just showing a second ago, that rotation possibly is weakening a bit as we're starting to see those shear rate numbers go down a little bit in that path, as you notice here. But there's still some broad rotation showing up north of Laurelville, heading into Hocking County and into the Hocking Hills this evening. So if you know people that are camping there, please just keep calling them, keep doing whatever you can to try to get a hold of them and to tell them if they don't know already, and hopefully they will be able to get to safer spots. This is a very hilly area in here. It's nighttime, it's raining a lot. It's going to be impossible to see anything coming through the hills here. You're just going to hear that roar, and that's going to be it. So again, a line from Tarleton north of Laurelville over towards Logan. That is the area. It's still under a tornado warning, and that extends until 1:30 tonight.
Right, and severe thunder.
1:45, I'm sorry, 1:45 tonight.
Correct, and a severe thunderstorm warning for Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross until 1:30. That still doesn't rule out, by the way, a tornado. It just means that the storm is a little bit weaker, again, in other portions of Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross counties. So, you know, it's these, we're really zooming in tight. It's the southeastern corner of Pickaway County, the northwestern corner of Hocking County. So it's actually getting a little bit past Tarleton, not seeing again the signature, the tight rotation, as we both have been, we're just calling this as we see it. Now again, there's still something going on here.
Yes.
And we do not want to, obviously we don't want to over alarm, but we don't want to say we're all is good here, because that's, we're seeing all the indicators that we see in tornadoes in the Midwest, and that where we have storms on the ground that look a lot like this. Now again, the rotation may be overhead, it may be near the ground. We know, according to the Sheriff's Office, a couple of semis were flipped on US 23 by Love's service station south of Circleville. It's all the same storm. We don't know what other damage may have occurred with the storm, be it straight line winds or tornadic. Tornado warning until 1:45, but there's no indication here that this threat is over.
And Ben, look behind them. They've got another cell coming right. I mean, that loves the truck stop is just south of Logan Elm Village by about a mile and a half along 23. And they've got another cell crossing US 22 right now in the southwest corner of the state. You can see that right here. You can see that moving across the southwest corner of the state, the county
Pickaway
right now.
County, yep.
And that's going to continue to move right in back towards that same area. So that station is right about in this location, and this cell is going to pull right back into here. And it looks like a very heavy rain, gusty winds possible with this. Again, that'll be into Kingston at 1:43. This cell even is showing a tornado index at about a 4.5 right now on that cell. That is not warned yet. We'll have to keep an eye on that number. Occasionally, you get a weird, little bit of a wonky number that'll show up from one scan to the next. But again, this is still a very dangerous cell that's going to be coming across. So if you're near Logan Elm Village, you're going outside to assess damage, you want to see what just happened, you need to get back inside to that safe spot right now, because it is not clear to go out yet in Pickaway County. We've got another thunderstorm, another very strong thunderstorm that's going to be moving through Pickaway County and following that severe tornadic cell that's moving into Hocking County at this time. And again, that is a tornado warned cell. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning down in parts of Pickaway County for that cell that's moving out of Fayette County right now. And you notice that's kind of the back edge. We're seeing showers and stuff, some thunderstorms up by Marion County down into Delaware, Franklin County, but all of this is not as strong as what we are seeing down to the south. In fact, Ben, we have not had many warnings in the north of I-70 pretty much since Licking County, and that was at about an hour ago.
Yeah, 12:30 when they expired the Licking County warning, and just so you know, that was also the Franklin County tornado warning, and at different times portions of Fairfield and Delaware counties also. But again, there were so many storms ongoing at once. So again, as I zoom in here, the Perry County storm is now a thunderstorm warning. It's got much less wind, but they're all moving southeast at 30, but still potentially 69-mile-per-hour wind gusts, at least rotationally. The storm is almost, the first storm, the lead storm that we think was tornadic, has moved into Hocking County, and it looks like it's weakened a little bit. And then, as Dave and I have been talking about, just when one storm leaves, there's another one. But this is that train of storms that came out of the Dayton area, where each one had tornadoes on the ground, whether it be in Montgomery County, the funnel clouds, in Greene County that came together into a wedge, possibly a tornado on the ground. And we may not know all that until tomorrow when the Weather Service does begins the multiple ground surveys. But this storm looks like it is kind of congealed into a heavy rain event from Circleville to Williamsport, not looking as severe as it has. And I don't see any couplet, in other words, green and red there. This is broad rotation here because, although still, you know, again, every time we think things are tamped down a little bit, there's
it's
still
cycling.
trouble.
It keeps getting, it weakens a little bit. It kind of runs out of energy, then it picks up another little bit of energy again. And again, this is moving through a little bit less populated area now, moving away from Tarleton. But again, Ben, if we could click on this orange shear marker here and see what the BTI is on that one. Again, remember that was, still at a 4.8, so still showing some pretty tight rotation, possibly about a 50% chance of a tornado contained within that. Also the possibility of nickel to quarter-sized hail. That'll be in towards Logan at 149, but again, moving right across the Hocking Hills, and there's a lot of homes inside of the hills in that area. It's going to be extremely difficult to know something is coming around the corner. This is an area that if you are in Hocking County right now, southern Fairfield County, you're kind of in the very northern fringe of this storm. It's basically Hocking County that we're dealing with now for this part of the storm. We've got another strong storm that's moving out of or through southern Pickaway County, south of US 22 now. 22 is right there from Circleville on south over towards Courthouse. This cell is going to continue to slide south. Laurelville, you're in for another round. Logan, Elm Village, Circleville, you're in for another round of storms. And this cell, even though it is only thunderstorm warned right now, still has the potential, thunderstorm warned cells still have the potential of producing tornadoes, as does this cell. So we've got to keep a very close eye on that cell. That's a very dangerous cell as well. But this is the most dangerous one that we are watching north of Laurelville right now. And Ben, this one, winds are really going to be an issue with that, and possible rotation. We've been watching that kind of picking up the last couple of scans again.
Yeah, and Dave, thank you for that. It's great. And I do want to give you an update. The tornado warning has been canceled for Fairfield and Pickaway.
Okay.
But it will continue for Hocking County until 1:45. A confirmed tornado 2 miles southeast of Tarleton. That's when we were zooming in on Tarleton, moving east at 30. A tornado confirmed on radar again just southeast of Tarleton, moving into Hocking County. So this is the message from the National Weather Service, because they're the ones issuing the warnings, and that's how we have the inside view as to what they are looking at with their many scans and multiple radar sites. But it all is about the storm. It has obviously moved east of Tarleton now, and it is in Hocking County. So
just north of Laurelville, like northeast of Laurelville.
Yeah, this is a pretty rural area, Dave. This is off, I believe, US 56. And I'm going to come in a little bit. There's 374, State Route 374, where you see the hail. Now watch this. We'll do storm winds again.
And you can see it picking right back up again.
It's unrelenting. And again, this indicates at least storm level rotation. It's impossible to know if this is on the ground or not. But if it is, we're down to township highways 146, State Route 36. So we're east of Laurelville, a very rural area. Let me clear that, move this over, come back, and we're east of Tarleton, South Perry, Buena Vista on the north and south. But the rotating part of the storm is now moving southeast, and you can see the arrows here. I've got to back this up a little bit. So we're in very rural western Hocking County, and I've covered flooding here, but it's not normally a zone that sees tornadoes because of the hills, but we learned that again in 2010. That's not always the case, and we continue to see that couplet, that broad red-green intertwining of inbound and outbound, as I put the red arrow in this way. I mean, yeah, it's a little wider in shape, which makes it a little less likely a storm would reach the ground, but you don't know. And you have to be in your safe place in Hocking County, which is the only ongoing tornado warning right now in our viewing area, and for that matter in the state of Ohio. But the markers, and Dave keeps very correctly pointing out the BTI of 4.8. Consider that, Dave, what, about a 50% chance of a tornado on the ground?
Yes.
That's among the highest we've seen.
And so far tonight, when we've had that number show up here, we've had tornadoes confirmed with all of every time we've had one of these storms show up with a marker at 4.8 or higher, we have had a tornado show up in that spot tonight. So that has been a very reliable indicator so far where there's been rotation. Obviously, we're not here to try Ben and I have not been trying trying to scare anyone with this. We're trying to make sure that everyone is properly prepared for whatever is coming your way. And we've had multiple tornadoes throughout the night tonight across the state, many large tornadoes as well that caused significant damage over in the western portion of the state. And this is basically the end of that line that's continuing these last couple of cells right here through parts of Hocking County tonight. And not only, we're talking about the possibility of tornadoes, but one of the other things you're going to have to deal with possibly some hail and some very heavy rain, because we've had these cells training over the same area. So 2 to 3 inch rainfall rates would not be unbelievable to hear about. And as Ben was mentioning, a very hilly area, drainage rolls down, flooding is going to be a potential as well. That's going to be a secondary concern. But again, the big concern, and this number, Ben, notice is up to a 4.9 now. So it does indicate that this cell is getting a little bit more tightly wrapped again, strengthening potentially between Laurelville and Logan right now. That's right basically along State Highway 180 heading over towards the Cantwell Cliffs. So basically the northern part of the Hocking Hills, right in this area, that's where that part of the cell is, just outside of Laurelville. And this is going to continue to move right through the Hocking Hills, just south of Logan, where the exit is there, where the Walmart is, right on that exit heading into the Hocking Hills. That's going to move across there down 33 towards Nelsonville. And again, very curvy area here, a lot of hills. You're not going to see what's coming across the road there. So if you live in this area, I know it is the middle of the night, you want to give yourself a good, carve out 45 minutes to an hour to get to that safe spot. Go there right now. If you're down here, if you're down near 33, you want to get in that safe spot right now until the back edge of these storms out by Circleville crosses and moves across, because we are going to continue to see potentially very gusty winds, hail, and possibly 2 cells that could potentially produce a tornado moving across this area. And Ben, that's a little bit concerning that cell is getting a little bit stronger, it appears, again, as it's moving over towards Logan. But as you mentioned, this could be elevated above the ground and not necessarily hitting the ground. And
that's the thing, at night we don't know. If it was daytime, we would have spotters helping. So we come back to me here in the Weather Center at the larger board. I want to point out this particular storm. I mean, I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter, and I'm going to also now we'll take that full screen. So we're going to go back just a little bit, because I've been tracking essentially where that storm has been rotating the most. Let me come all the way back out to a wider view here. That's the eastern edge. So that's Haydenville, South Logan. That's Ewing. This is Gibsonville. So that's the leading edge of the storm. And so I'm essentially following the path. There is still a suggestion here that the air is flowing in, and this is definitely what we call rear flank downdraft, or the air flowing around the back edge of the storm. So if we come all the way back, clear this, again, to get everybody oriented. Again, you can see much less in the way of active weather, although still some heavy rain around Marion and Delaware and Zanesville. But they're the last 2 cells that have been really causing us trouble in terms of rotation off to the south and south of Circleville and south of Logan. So let me slide this back up to make sure that's above our banner. Severe thunderstorm warning, by the way, has been issued for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross now until 2 in the morning. So this is essentially a continuation of everybody around this supercell storm is at least warned in some capacity. Remember, you can get a tornado within the bounds of a thunderstorm warning, and that's even indicated in the messaging. But this storm continues to work its way east. So remember, this is where it came from. It essentially worked its way just to the south of Circleville and Williamsport. So let me, I need to give you a little more space here. So you can see the path of the storm has been like so. It's been very consistent. And all along this, we may find out there were 1 or more tornado touchdowns, and it is moving due southeast at about 35 miles per hour. So it is now heading through central portions of Hocking County. The hail size indicating around 1 inch, east-southeast at 31. Logan in about 24 minutes. Tornado warning continues until 1:45. It's currently 1:28. So the tornado warning will continue until 1:45 for Hocking County. A confirmed tornado 4 miles northeast of Laurelville with damage. Yeah. So, Dave, when we were seeing all those really strong markers between Circleville and Laurelville, just southeast of Circleville, the storm was clearly on the ground, at least for an unknown period of time. because the National Weather Service saying yes, that has been an ongoing tornado.
And that's going right through the Hocking Hills. So if you're in Logan, Nelsonville, Star, Hocking Hills State Park, around that area, you live around there, you need to get to that safe spot immediately, because we have had reports now of damage with this cell as it was near Laurelville. So that damage is an indication that there was at minimum very strong winds. We talk about 70, 80 mile an hour winds. That's still EF1 to EF0, EF1 tornado strength winds in a straight line fashion. Possibly a tornado damage as well. That's something that'll have to be assessed afterwards.
And speaking of damage, Dave, Fayette County, we have some video in from the storm.
Wow.
Now remember, this is the storm that came from Fayette County into Pickaway County, and you can really see here, and as we get a little bit closer to the monitor, with the sky being illuminated by lightning, you can see what appears to be a funnel cloud maybe the funnel on the ground. I mean, that looks like a cone-shaped tornado in Fayette County. This would, of course, would have been about an hour ago. Boy, Dave, that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, that was about and I'm guessing that was, you said, about an hour ago right there?
Yeah, but based on, I did a time lapse on that, and I'm thinking that's the storm that moved over Circleville. So this may be a supercell that kept continuing to put down, it had tornadic rotation all the way through.
Yeah, you could see it in that video right there.
Wow, that's, again, if this were daylight, we'd have a lot more information. But if we're seeing it illuminated by lightning, that's and if that width, that looks like maybe a quarter of a mile wide, maybe an eighth of a mile wide. It's hard to tell, but incredibly strong storm. That's when it was in Fayette County. So you know what, I'm going to go back on time lapse so we can follow that storm. And let me get some of these markers out of the way. I'm going to have to change up. I'm going to have to go back maybe 2 hours here to watch that storm right there move through Fayette County, north of Jeffersonville, just north of Washington Courthouse. That's where that video was from. That's the storm that indeed has made it to Circleville. I'm going to give us more pause between these time lapses.
Go ahead and set that up, Ben. We've got also video coming in from the Dayton area, I believe, this evening of damage that was caused earlier in Dayton. You can see the damage to the structures here. Oh my gosh, look at all the video that from this video, this building that was just basically torn off. Now, the difficult part is telling what strength of a tornado this is, but obviously we had confirmed reports of a tornado on the ground earlier in Dayton. And what's scary about this, you can see the lightning still flashing in the background there. A lot of rain fell in this area, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain. You can see all the windows smashed by all the debris. This is why we always tell folks you want to make sure you get away from those doors and windows, because notice, even though a tornado possibly hit this structure or very strong straight line winds, the outer walls of that home did take most of the force and took all of the damage. So if you're inside of that house, you're in that innermost room or a basement, you can start to escape some of that damage and just keep it confined to the outer portions of that house. But again, this does appear to be at least very strong winds, if not tornadic damage that was coming in. I don't know if we've confirmed that was with tornado per se, but again, very strong winds, damage over in the Dayton area. We did have reports confirmed of tornadoes on the ground, a tornado on the ground near Dayton earlier this evening, about 3 hours ago, that produced a lot of damage in that area. And those cells have basically traveled down through Fayette County, through parts of Pickaway County, now down into the Hocking Hills, where we have had damage through the Hocking Hills already. Reports near Laurelville of a tornado that has caused damage in that area. So again, if you're in the Hocking Hills, if you're in Logan, if you're in Nelsonville, this is the time that you need to be in your safe spot right now. We've also got a strong cell trailing this that's moving across 23 right now. Same area that we had a couple of trucks flipped over along 23, just south of Logan Elm Park, or Logan Elm Village, that is. And that was down near a truck stop there. A couple of trucks got flipped over on their sides, possibly from straight line winds or tornadic damage. That was the cell we were following towards Tarleton, and then eventually towards Laurelville, that did produce a confirmed reports of tornadoes in that area. And that cell's now down into Hocking County. That's going to be moving it appears just south of Logan, if it continues on this track to the east-southeast at about 35, and then eventually moving into Nelsonville. And then Athens County is going to have to deal with this same cell. So Ben just turned on the storm threats here, purple shading. That's showing the possibility of some small hail. This is showing half-inch diameter hail, so about nickel to maybe, or dime to quarter-sized hail possible with this. BTI in this bottom, or this back cell, at about 2.7. That's our tornado index. That's lowered or weakened from a couple of scans ago. This other cell, this one that we've been watching watching the tornado warn cell, still a BTI showing up at 4.9 with that cell as it continues to push off towards the east-southeast at about 31 miles per hour with that cell. This latest track right here, Ben, that's this. Which cell is this right here? This is a 2.9, is the one near Laurelville.
Yes, and the other one's
that's showing some
2.7.
weakening.
They both have weakened, but you know, Dave, I'm going to draw your attention to another strong storm.
I saw that one.
It just,
Yep.
you know, this one has cycled up to the, this was the Perry County tornado warning, now a thunderstorm warning in Muskingum and Perry counties, but that's got some strong wind shear as it heads into Philo, Brush Creek, and South Zanesville, BTI 2.8, so that's a moderate threat, 69 mile per hour.
Again, hilly area though, Ben. How do you see something in that?
You cannot spot these, and in fact radar doesn't spot them as much as tell us the area where something's happening overhead. It's going to be next to impossible until either we get reports of damage or we get something illuminated by lightning to see. That's why these are so dangerous. During the day at least we would have a vantage point to see, but this storm again to the north in Perry County is not giving up its strength completely either, and you can see as I run a couple of elements of information essentially interrogating the storm. So winds are, rotational winds are near 60 miles per hour, or rather winds are near 60 miles per hour as it approaches Brush Creek, Philo, and Blue Rock in the next 10 to 25 minutes. So again, just to orient you guys, I'll have to clear that out just a little bit. That's the storm in western Muskingum County that has moved out of, or virtually out of, northeastern Perry County. Thunderstorm warned storms, and that thunderstorm warning, by the way, for Hocking, Ross, and Pickaway will continue until 2 o'clock, and that's for our other storm, which is not as strong as it had been, thankfully.
But it's been doing that tonight too.
Yeah, it'll go down, and then 10 minutes later we'll see it cycle again.
But you notice if you go back to the velocity on that cell, that one has it is weakened a lot. We've noticed that over the last couple of cycles here of scans that this cell has weakened. They're still showing a little bit of rotation with that. And again, as Ben and I are alluding to here, you do not want to go, oh, it's weakening. That's it. If I'm in Logan right now or Laurelville or Star, you want to make sure that you keep on alert because this cell has had a history of being a dangerous cell. And near Laurelville, we had damage reports possibly with a tornado with this cell, and that's going to continue to push off towards the east-southeast at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So still a dangerous cell that Ben's circling right in here, and that's going to continue basically to move right in towards Star, just south of Logan. So if you're near Cedar Grove, near Blackjack, near South Bloomingville, again, this is the Hocking Hills area, right down in that area near the State Park entrance. That's going to be an area that's going to be right under the gun for this strong storm that's moving overhead right now. And again, that cell has had a history of becoming a little stronger, weakening a little bit, and it did pulse up, Ben, about 15 minutes ago, and it possibly had produced a tornado near Laurelville. And near
Circleville, too.
Yes, exactly.
And south of Circleville, and probably in Fayette County, and certainly back in Greene and Montgomery counties, and even farther back. It's what we call a tornado family that worked its way southeast. Still some powerful storms out by Kingston. That's a thunderstorm warning currently for the coming into the back edge. They've been companion storms, which is unusual, at least in our part of the country, to see such fierce storms riding piggyback. But there's that much energy, that much wind shear and rotation aloft to sustain these storms, but also feeding off areas to the south where it hasn't rained yet. But everything has made tremendous progress to the southeast, not at a rapid rate, but we've cleared areas to the north outside of a little bit of rain around Franklin County, Fairfield County, Licking County, Pickaway County, except for the extreme southeast corner, all in much better shape. Anything to the north is just going to rain cooled air.
And Ben, to your point, they actually expired. Not that it really matters because they were expiring at 2, but Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, Ross, Delaware, Fayette, Franklin, Licking, and Madison, they have canceled or expired the tornado watches for those areas.
Yeah. So this is it. The back edge. Is
more rain and thunderstorms to the north, but that's not going to have this severe threat to them. Yeah,
and I'm going to give Dave a broader perspective. Yeah, there's some pockets of rain, but clearly, the threat is outlined by the thunderstorm warnings and the one remaining tornado warning in the red box or polygon for Hocking County. That storm, again, is now over Hocking Hill State Park. It is south of Logan. It is not showing all the classic signatures that we've seen over and over again tonight. This is some broad rotation here, so probably almost certainly a loft. And again, rotation doesn't ensure tornadoes on the ground, but it certainly has matched up with the touchdowns that we've confirmed, those that we will find out tomorrow morning by light of day. And that's why all these different indices that we've been looking at have helped immensely in terms of pinpointing exactly what is the most dangerous part of these storms. Because, you know, in the old days we didn't have Doppler radar. We just saw bright colors, and you know, that didn't really tell us whether it was just heavy rain or if there was unless we had a clearly defined hook echo. We've even had that tonight where the air you know, is literally circling around. But you know, before we were seeing currents like these, we're not seeing that kind of rotation anymore. But it's worth reviewing. There's still you know, inflow outflow. I think in this case you've got air going this way and that way, but it's no longer coming back. There's still maybe a hint of rotation in the southwest corner of Hocking County. So we'll go back to our reflectivity mode, and that kind of makes sense here. You know, last vestige of where there's some rotation, but we've got to be careful. We don't want to rule anything out, especially in an ongoing tornado warning. And the trailing storm, Kingston, the core of the storm, in about 5 minutes to Adelphi, in 20 minutes, and to Laurelville.
Newly issued tornado warning for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross counties until 2:15 tonight.
They're just, you know, Weather Service is, because of the history of these storms, is not going to you know, let this.
So again, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross counties until 2:15, and that's going to be that trailing cell that you were just showing, Ben.
There it is. There's, yeah, the new. I was waiting for the red box to come up. So both storms are tornado warned storms, and you know, we're not seeing.
Actually, see a little bit better rotation near Kingston with that second back cell, the west one.
You know, and what happens, Dave? We think, you know, this kind of fills in a little bit because you have all this rain out here. However, for this storm, this storm is sitting off by itself, so it's got warm, moist air to flow in, and maybe one of the last of the powerful storms. But it gains as the storm in front of it weakens just a bit. And I'm not saying it's even that weak in southern Hocking County, but absolutely in northeastern Ross County, heading into western Hocking County, a very potent storm. So as Dave mentioned, that tornado warning. By the way, the east movement at 55 miles per hour is much faster than the storms have been moving earlier. They were around 35 miles per hour, although this marker says it's still closer to 30, and that's hard to tell, but it's adjusting right now for you know, as that storm develops. So there's the tornado warning until 2:15. Trying to get that up where you can see that. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that.
Kingston, that's where we've got a little bit of that rotation showing up right in that area. And this has been a cell that Ben and I have been watching for the last couple of, you know, last hour and a half in this area, because it's been trailing that other stronger cell initially. But now this one, Ben, does appear to be showing a little bit more of that rotation. Again, that is right near Kingston at this time. As you mentioned, it does appear to be moving east at about 35 miles per hour, although depending on which radar scan you're getting in there, it is showing a little bit quicker speed than that. I always would rather assume that it's going to be going a little bit faster. So if radar scans picking up 50 to 55, that's okay as well, because you want to just be prepared. So if you're in Kingston, if you're in Laurelville, again, this is an area that just was hit 15-20 minutes ago with potentially another tornado just north of Laurelville. And now, you know, you think about it, folks in that area, you have to go back indoors. Even if you have damage to your home, that's going to be your safe structure to be in.
Yeah, and hopefully you haven't had damage, but the problem is you may not even know what's happened around you, and you don't know if there are any trees down or wires down, because we know we've had powerful winds, rotation near the ground, maybe on the ground in spots. So it's a very difficult situation. You don't want to be walking around outside in darkness and not sure what you're literally stepping on or what you're going to come across relative to any bits of debris that sometimes can be carried miles away from where a storm actually touched down. So we're continuing to track this latest series of tornado warned storms coming out of Ross County and into western Hocking County.
Ben, newly issued tornado warning for Athens, Meigs, and Vinton County down to the south. So that's a new issued tornado warning
Yeah, that should show
it's the same cell we were just tracking. I'll bet you it's the exact same cell. See how it's down from Nelsonville now down to Athens?
Oh, I see, yes. Yeah, so they're extending it, you're right, into the north.
Charleston just extended that all the way down to the south.
Wilmington and Charleston, so we have multiple offices that have different areas, but they're linking up because Wilmington is responsible for Hocking County, Charleston for Athens County. So they're coordinating that tornado warning. Until this storm shows signs of losing rotation. So now
let's zoom in right here, Ben. It's right near Lake Hope State Park. It may be difficult to see here if we move this map up a little bit. Should be right in this area here in the southern Hocking Hills where we've got that storm right now. And again, if you've been through this area, most of us have spent time down there at some point. You know, it's very hilly, roads are very curvy. It's difficult to see anything in this area. So this is very concerning moving through the southern Hocking Hills. It'll be moving through Star. And then eventually, as we zoom back out a little bit here, Ben, you will notice that we've got that tornado warning box that does extend through Nelsonville down to Athens. That does include Ohio University down in that area is now under the tornado warning, and that extends until 2:30 tonight. Extends all the way until 2:30 for this cell moving to the southeast at 40 miles per hour. So Ben, that cell earlier was moving east-southeast, and it is now starting to turn just a little bit, which gives me an indication that possibly the cell behind it near Laurelville, the earlier cell, this one right here to the east, that moved just north of Laurelville. This one near Kingston to Laurelville, that may move just to the south of Laurelville with a potential another tornado moving into the southern part of the Hocking Hills and Hocking County. You notice hail numbers, 90% likelihood of hail, severe hail, at about 30%, looking at about nickel to quarter-sized hail with this as it is moving off towards the east, southeast at about 33 miles per hour. Then this other cell that's just off towards the south of Logan, that'll be into Star in about 19 minutes. That would put you at about 2 o'clock-ish, and Nelsonville in about 30 minutes. But again, you're already seeing some strong thunderstorms out ahead of this cell moving into Star at this point, so you need to be at your safe spot. I know we keep talking about this, but the importance of that cannot be stated. You need to get to that lowest point of your house as possible.
Dave, take a look at this southeast of Kingston.
That's
there you go. There's again, we didn't have this before on this storm. There is the infamous couplet of green and red indicating air curling around in a spiral aloft at least. So there, again, that helps us nail down, and certainly from the standpoint of the National Weather Service in Wilmington.
They reissued for Hocking County until 2:15 also.
And this is why. This is the tight red-green indicating a tight circulation, counterclockwise circulation, at least at cloud level. We'll call that maybe a mesocyclone. That's
moving east at 40. They're starting to move a little faster now. That one's located near the Hocking Hills State Park. A tornado near the Doppler radar indicated tornado near the Hocking Hills State Park. So newly issued tornado warning does extend for southern Hocking County until 2:15, and then extends all the way down into Athens County, Vinton County, the northeast corner of Vinton County. Look at that. Yeah, look at that rotation. They're moving right in towards Star.
It's just, like you said, it cycles over and over and over again. So it weakens perhaps briefly, and then it encounters a more favorable environment. And of course, we're getting a little bit out of the range of Cleveland. You know what? I'm going to switch to Charleston, West Virginia, just to get another take on these storms, because really now we've been focusing on Wilmington radar, but Charleston should get a better view of these storms coming into the foothills of the Appalachians. So with that in mind, let me go back over what I just did. This is from the perspective of Charleston. Again, back here. These are probably strong outflows, but this is the area we're watching for rotation. But let's go up a little bit and see if we have any other views of wind shear right there, indicating the strongest winds are south of Logan, as Dave said, over Hocking Hills State Park.
It appears the Wilmington radar still got a better track in that Kingston storm.
It actually does. You're right. So we'll go back to Wilmington radar. At least we can. In the old days, we couldn't make all these swaps and go back and forth and look at different radar systems or different radar sites. So Wilmington, as Dave is correct, has a much better view of the Laurelville storm, tornado warned storm. Charleston will this will come into play, I think, Charleston, as it gets into Athens County. But these two storms, and it would be helpful, I'm going to show you
this right here too, Ben. Right.
Time lapse also to show you a movement. And let me put a little bit of a motion on this off to the east-southeast, and I need to back this up a little bit So you can see the track of these two storms. I mean, they are. It is one following the other. One going south of Laurelville just as quickly as right behind the previous Laurelville tornado. These two storms. Now there's a lot of rain off to the east in Athens County that may make it a little less likely that the storm entering northwest Athens County will be quite as strong. But you can see those two cells, both tornadic, that have one moved past Laurelville and now another one approaching Laurelville and just to the south of Laurelville in northwestern portions of Hocking County. Just amazing. I'm going to stop the tracker for a moment, but that gives us perspective. It looks like, Dave, everything is still moving
zoom in
southeast.
If you can, zoom into that Kingston area and then put on the velocity for this with that cell.
So here's the Kingston storm. Let's go to.
We move that map up a little bit. We got the banner in the bottom.
Yeah, so I'm going to slide
you could see
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And that last scan actually cleaned it up
a little bit.
Can you turn on the base velocity for a second and see if that gives us a little bit better indicator?
Yeah, one storm relative filters out storm motion. This is
kind of weak looking right
kind
there.
Kind of the overview. Still, just a little bit of a couplet right here. That still indicates we might have some rotation aloft.
But like that last one, the last one went just north of Laurelville. This one's going just south of Laurelville.
It finds maybe a little better inflow from the south and suddenly perks up. So we have not been able to take our eyes off any of these storms for any length of time, even as they move east-southeast at about 33 miles an hour into Adelphi and Laurelville. That's the Kingston storm. And then separately we have the Athens County a storm heading into Athens County now from the northwest, heading into Star in the next 12 minutes. It is just about cleared southeastern Hocking County, but not quite. Nelsonville, Chansey, Athens, we'll see this storm. It remains to be seen what the Weather Service does here after 2 o'clock, but right now they are tornado-warned storms. In other words, they are capable of producing a tornado. The one moving in to Athens County, of course, over Hocking Hill State Park, moving east at 40 miles an hour, according to the latest National Weather Service scan. And but that's the overall track on both of these. You know, they're in tandem, one a little bit to the west. Both have had a history of producing tornadoes, certainly strong rotation, which comes and goes. But I think the storm, Dave, is going to be in Athens shortly.
Yes, I think the biggest concerns, obviously, that cell is moving out of, it is basically moving out of Pickaway County now. But if you're in the northeastern corner of Ross County, that's going to be a dangerous spot in northeastern Ross County, also southern Hocking County, and most of Athens and part of Vinton County, the northeast corner of Vinton County, all under tornado warnings for this cell that's continuing to push off towards the east. And again, we're showing storm threats here. You notice the purple indications, that's of small hail, about ½ inch diameter. So you're looking at about nickel-sized hail, maybe dime to nickel-sized hail possible in both of those pockets. The bigger concern, obviously, is going to be rotation showing up with these possible storms that are could possibly produce or drop a tornado out of them, as we've been tracking these moving off towards the east-south. It looks about east-southeast at about 40 miles per hour. So as Ben turns on the storm winds, this basically will give us an indication of the rotation of the winds, and that's what we've been watching throughout the evening hours tonight. And these are the two cells. This one's got the big tornado warning cone that goes all the way down into Athens County. It's just north of Star, between Star and Logan. We've got another one just south of Laurelville right now. That's the newest tornado warning that we've got, and that's also going to follow in the same path, basically into the southern part of Hocking County, also northern Vinton County, then eventually back into Athens County this evening. So along 33, it is going to be a mess from 33 on south. This cell that's moving in towards Nelsonville right now has had a history of producing a tornado near Laurelville earlier, or at least damage was associated possibly with wind damage to a structure was associated with a tornado that possibly moved right through the northern part of the Hocking Hills in the northwest corner. And that's going to start to move down 33 right now from Nelsonville towards Athens.
There's the hail path, Dave, too, which matches up with the stronger updrafts that have been rotating.
What does that shear swath look like right now?
This is, Dave, this is, Dave is referring to what has helped us a lot tonight. First of all, this is the shear rate where the strongest winds are. First of all, currently, so near Laurelville and Hocking Hill State Park.
There's another tornado warning that was just issued for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross counties until 2:15. That same cell that was near Kingston.
I see that moving east, southeast at 40 miles an hour, yep, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross. So there's the shear path. So let's go back to our classic mode. And again, it's the same two storms, Dave. They just continue we call these rolling warnings because once they've had a history of producing tornadoes, and we continue to find small areas of rotation, and who knows what kind of damage we may find. Hopefully we won't tomorrow morning with the light of day, but it's hard to imagine. These storms have not been on the ground in spots, whether it be straight line winds or rotation reaching the ground. But two still very potent storms. Again, this storm is off by itself a little bit, supercell thunderstorm. This storm is off by itself, so they have unimpeded warm, moist air flowing in from the south, following a boundary that's essentially a warm front, which is the leading edge of the warm or tropical air running right through here. So that's been the pathway. That's why we knew where these storms were going. They started up out in the Dayton area, but we knew where the front was lying. We talked about that earlier this evening at 4, 5, 6, and 7 o'clock on all the shows, and that it said watch that boundary as storms came out of Indiana, and they have just run down that same highway over and over again. And the broader view is showing the feature that caused us our biggest problem was this broad low pressure area in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So there's the broad rotation, and then that comes down into the low levels in the form of small little vortices, and that's where all the supercells have been on the leading edge. By supercell, again, a rotating updraft, and not all produce thunderstorms, tornadoes, maybe 25%, but they have been doing so tonight because the rotation has been tight, like a figure skater spiraling around faster and faster, and they're feeding off each other, and that's what's been so rough tonight. Maybe the outflow from the leading edge feeds into the next storm upscale. So there is a Laurelville, that's one of the tornado warnings or tornado warned storms, and there is a Nelsonville Chansey Star in Athens. The tornado warning goes down to Guysville in Athens County. There is Nelsonville, so two potent storms. We continue to go back to some of our indicators. Not seeing
this one right here.
They're just little elements, but they're very important. They're very telling. I mean, it indicates very small rotation. But Dave, you and I, occasionally we'll go back after a storm has moved through, and we try to analyze why a tornado touched down, where it did, and what was the signal. It can be something that's subtle.
Yes. And Ben, I've been watching, trying to look for these cells like the one near Laurelville that's just to the south to see if we're seeing any debris, because that's one of the indicators, a really good indicator that there's a tornado via radar, is if you could see the debris in there. And I've not noticed that in the last 15 minutes or so with some of these scans. I'm not seeing that. And it's a difficult thing to pick up on the radar sometimes, especially when you've got a hilly location like this. The way the radar's cleaned up a little bit, it's difficult to pick up in this area. But again,
by the way, Dave, I'm going to put that on for you.
It's difficult to see in here.
Yeah, we don't see anything. I know you see some colors here, but that's not so much what we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually we'll see, when we saw earlier,
blue dot or something.
Like a dot within an area where we had, or basically where we had rotation. So this is a relatively new component of live Viper radar and Doppler radar around the country. Came in, I think, around 2014, 2015. But we did see a debris ball at one point.
Yes.
And I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was the Pickaway or the Fayette County storm, but that was an indication of a tornado on the ground. And that may have been the Fayette County storm that produced, where we saw the video of the tornado illuminated by lightning about 15, 20 minutes ago that came into NBC4.
And Ben, I think for this cell's starting to move out of Pickaway County, which is good news. Pickaway County, I noticed just a minute ago that the severe thunderstorm warning for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross County, as if that matters a lot, because we still got tornado warnings covering this area, but they have expired. The severe thunderstorm warning for that has
Hocking,
expired.
Pickaway, Ross. Okay.
Yeah, that's expired, but we're still watching the tornado warnings that extend basically from near Laurelville right now, just south of Logan, and then all the way down into Athens.
Until 2:15.
Exactly, with a tornado warning. And it's for these two cells that we've been tracking. And you notice we've got rain that extends thunderstorms all the way up towards Logan. But again, that's the tornado warning that we are watching. We still got a couple of strong thunderstorms to the north of that. up in, you notice up in Muskingum, Morgan counties, I believe we've got thunderstorm warnings right in this area as well. And then as we move up the map a little bit, you notice in Perry County from New Lexington over towards Crooksville, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings as well. And all of this extends back off towards the east near Guernsey County too. But then as you get further to the west, things get a lot more quiet. We've got scattered showers, a few thunderstorms up into parts of northern Licking County, Delaware counties, Knox County, but none of this is severe like what we are seeing down to the south. So once we can get all this stuff to exit to the south this evening, it is going to be a significantly more quiet night for the rest of us. I think, Ben, if you're north of US 22,
you're fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
South of US 22, that line from Zanesville to Washington Courthouse, Lancaster.
22 connects Circleville to Zanesville for folks that we've been on it. Of course, you know your home areas. And, you know, clearly it's the front end. And it's not just the front end of these storms, but the tail end. When you think things should be winding down, actually those storms are the most potent. You get although earlier tonight, of course, we saw even up to the north some supercells going in this direction. They came out of Union County, across Franklin County, across Union and Delaware counties, just one after another. The storms off to the south of us took more of a southeasterly course like this. Coming out of the Dayton area, we saw multiple trains of supercells going from Dayton down through Pickaway County. We have confirmed tornadoes. In case if you're tuning in at Laurelville, or rather in south of Circleville and Laurelville as well. Almost certainly tornadoes in Fayette County based upon video. We have confirmed tornadoes where all this started, and large and devastating damage in spots out in the Dayton area. Again, that may not be sorted out till morning. And of course, we'll be on at 4 in the morning with NBC4 today, and we'll be gathering in from our other affiliates just to the west of the Miami Valley exactly what transpired as these storms wind down. But this last corridor of severe weather is it, as Dave said. It is, I'm going to have to back this up a little bit again to try to stay above the banner. These warnings will still go for a little while longer. I'm going to switch modes to see if we can pick up anything. Again, every now and then we still catch little tiny signatures here.
And Ben, that's what, if we could, Todd, if we could show real fast, go back to WG3 for a second. I want to show you guys the storm threats. And look at this while Ben's investigating over there. This cell south of Laurelville right here. These light pink shadings, or the purplish color right here, is showing about 1/2 inch diameter hail. This is 1 inch diameter hail in here. But then you're looking at 50 to 70. And look at that, Ben. That's gotten a little bit stronger, that last scan right there.
Pulsed up yet again.
Just south of Laurelville. And that cell is moving to the east-southeast at 33 miles per hour. Shear marker showing at about 80 miles an hour right now. And again, surface winds, you can see 50 to 70 mile per hour surface winds in that area just south of Laurelville. And this storm is getting stronger. Ben, I noticed the BTI number on this has gone up to a 4.9. Again, we've been talking about this throughout the night. That's about a 50% chance of having a tornado associated with it. This based on our radar technology here. And that's showing that picking up just a little bit south of Laurelville. So earlier, cell that was north of Laurelville produced a damage consistent with the tornado. Now we're watching this one moving to the south, and that extends that tornado warning basically for the southern part of Hocking County into the Hocking Hills, and then down into Athens and Vinton County through 2:30 tonight for that cell. So again, that is that tornado, that possible tornadic cell near Laurelville is moving off towards the east-southeast at about 35 miles per hour. So a very dangerous storm near Adelphi this evening. That will be moving right into South Bloomingville. That's right near the Hocking Hills State Park, an area that's been hit already. I mentioned that earlier this evening. And that cell, Ben, does appear to be getting a little bit stronger. So if you're near the Hocking Hills State Park, if you're near Star, that is a very dangerous cell. Yeah,
and the National Weather Service is saying that they have keyed in on the storm 10 miles southeast of Kingston, as you said, right here. That's why the tornado warning will continue for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross until 2:15. That's one of 2 tornado warnings. That's not the only one, of course. We have all of this going on through eastern Hocking County and down through Athens County until 2:30. The signatures are not as strong. It seems like the back edge is catching the most potent portion of the storm. Hail about 1/2 inch in diameter to the northwest of Nelsonville. And and the hail has not been all that impressive. surprisingly, but it's been south of Laurelville. But I'm heading into MacArthur, so that's in Vinton County at 233. Wind shear, rotational shear at about 80 miles per hour. That's quite strong. That's above the ground. Hail 1 1/4 inches in diameter. All these parameters have been very concerning. We'll back this up and give you the traditional view again, showing the cell midway between Laurelville and MacArthur. So in terms of orientation, you're heading into northern portions of Vinton County now. And again, that's supercell number 1. This one, Dave, looks a little bit weaker as it heads into Athens, and I think that's the case because it's kind of stretched out here.
Yeah.
We don't see how compact this one is compared to.
A new tornado warning was just issued for Athens, Jackson, Meigs, Vinton County until 2:45. So
they're going to follow this storm all the way to the Ohio River.
There, I see it extended out through Vinton County, basically.
Yeah,
through MacArthur now.
Yeah, I think and obviously we're now in Charleston's range in terms of the National Weather Service warnings, but they've taken this storm and just figured it's not going to stop either storm rotating completely until maybe it crosses into West Virginia. So consider, as Dave said, 2:45 for this portion of the warning, 2:30 for northern Athens County, 2:45 for southwestern Athens County, including the city of Athens, 2:15 on the tornado warning north and west of Nelsonville into Hocking County. Laurelville is 2:15 in terms of expiration time. Vinton County is 2:45, and that goes into the northeastern corner of Jackson County. So, we just figure the storms are moving east at about 35 miles per hour, and when they finally clear, they clear, but we still have issues. Star and Vinton, at least past 2:30 for not the leading edge, but the the dangerous part of that storm. And of course, you can see the storm that continues to work its way down 33 between Nelsonville and Athens. Let's see if anything shows up on wind. Not there. Let's try another vantage point. Nothing spectacular there, but if anything, it's the Laurelville portion of the storm, and I've got to clear that, move that back up. That continues to show rotation, and if you're wondering, it's right there. You see again a little bit of red and green coming together. So that's where the stronger rotation is. It's more diffuse in Athens County, indicating winds are going away and toward radar, but nothing like this particular storm, which again that's why I said the storm in Athens County appears to be a little bit weaker than the storm coming into north central Vinton County. Let's go back to radar as you're used to seeing it. There are the potent storms between Logan and Athens, so a trip down 33 now, not advised. If you're getting off work, you got to let these storms go through. And it doesn't matter, even if rotation weakens, they can still be putting out torrential rain, high winds, and cause damage. So again, the tornado warning for Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross County until 2:15. So we're going to see what happens. It's 2:05 now, and that would be the back end or caboose, if you want to call it, of this cell. But it has still been a long night of potent storms with deep rotation, numerous tornado touchdowns. Starting in Indiana, I counted, I think, 15 when Dave and I started on the air. And those storms were just crossing Interstate 75, and then within around 10 o'clock, and then it's just been dominoes, storm after storm after storm.
And Ben, I brought up another map behind you there. We've been looking at the shear path. We can bring that up over here on WG5 in the background here. This is something we look at to see where the shear is more likely to see a tornado, less likely. You look for the shear typically in the strong to extreme rate. We're starting to see rotation, so that red to yellow color that we're seeing here, and that was the track of that one cell. You notice a couple of spots here just off towards the west of Jeffersonville. We had a couple of yellow spots there. That's where we had tornadoes that were possibly on the ground in that area along 35, and that track continued towards Circleville. That's where we had reports of trucks that were overturned at the Pilot gas station, or the truck stop there just south of Logan Elm Village, and then that continued in the Hocking Hills. You notice that cell kind of weakened a bit, and we're not seeing the same shear that we had earlier here on the marker path here. But to the south, that cell that popped up near Kingston, kind of not popped up, but started to grow a little bit more towards Kingston, that has gotten stronger as it's moved into the Hocking Hills and into the southern part. And we're noticing a lot more shear potential across that cell. So Ben, that really looks like that's going to be the next cell that we're going to have to, obviously, which the Weather Service offices are out of Charleston and West Virginia, watching that very closely, moving into Vinton County, so to the Zaleski Forest over in that area, down towards MacArthur, eventually towards Albany, Athens. So if you're in those areas, you need to get to that lowest part of your home as possible. If you're on campus, you need to get to a safe spot somewhere away from doors and windows. We saw video earlier off towards the west of some of the damage that these storms have caused. And also earlier, we had a lot of hail as well getting blown into them. But any of that is going to cause significant damage and is very dangerous, especially towards, if you're looking out towards the west or northwest part, that's where the storm is coming in from. So you want to get to that basement or the innermost room of the house. You notice this is going through southern Hocking County right now into northern Vinton County. So that's going to be just north of MacArthur. We've also got additional thunderstorms that are moving from Nelsonville over towards Athens. Ben, it's difficult to tell because we're getting further away from the radar sites, and we're kind of between two different radars.
And in a very hilly
Yes.
Appalachians, which even from Charleston's vantage point. Now, the portion of the tornado warning for Hocking, Ross counties, essentially, and the northwest, that portion will expire 2/15, Hocking, Ross, and Pickaway. So
let's show that real fast. That's this portion right over here by Laurelville. That portion is going to expire.
That's going away
in 7 minutes. That should be going away. That should be expired. That is good news. They're on the back end. They have had a really, really rocky night tonight in that area, with multiple storms possibly producing tornadoes or rotation in that area. So that is good news that they are going to start to get in the clear a little bit. But you notice that cell that's moving out of that area into Vinton County, that is a pretty strong cell moving into Vinton County this evening. What are the BTI numbers, the orange markers showing?
Yeah, this is a good time to see what we can ascertain here. First of all, let me see if we can find a we're going to have to look at Charleston, number one, because we're starting to get a little bit farther away.
Yeah.
It's
basically north of the Tar Hollow State Forest, right up in that area where it's at.
I'm actually
right down 327.
I'm going to switch gears here to do it this way.
Yeah, look at the red on the back of that, though, again.
Yeah, so there's still, this is what Dave was referring to when he said BTI, which is 5.0, which is higher than it's been all night, which is a strong indication of
right in here.
Rotation. A couple of things are going to happen, Dave. I think if you would agree, there's a lot of rain here.
Yes.
So that cell is not going to survive going through here very well. Now there is a little bit of a gap, I suppose, in southern portions, western portions of Athens County, but that may force the more severe portion of this storm, which has tornado potential, a little bit farther to the southeast, in other words, a little bit below the range. So you see it right there. In fact, it just did that in this last motion. It's not going to probably run right through this rainy corridor because it's being fed by there's your inflow right there. It's being fed by some warm, moist air coming around this way. So most likely it is worth a check. Let me again stay with Charleston. Let's go to velocity mode, and of course,
you can still see a little bit of that rotation.
It is amazing how persistent. We don't see that in Athens County. Again, I don't want to let our guard down because you can't see everything. And if you're under tornado warning, we don't know precisely. We just know that the stronger rotation is with the trailing storm because you don't have all the rain fanning out as we do across Athens County down 33. So the worst of this storm, Dave, is definitely, and boy, it really shows up there. There's a hail core. Is definitely moving into Vinton County. So it's right on the county line there. And so that's where this goes next, out of Hocking County into Vinton County. It's not apt to push into the back of the Athens County storm. But for now, they are tornado-warned storms. So here we go. This is the hail core. Let me see if I can give you a couple of other things that are helpful. The path of the hail, which has been intermittent. There's the hail core right there. The shear rate, the wind shear, showing where the strongest winds are right on the county line.
Now that's going to be difficult to pick up out of the Charleston one because it's further. It'd be a little bit more difficult.
But at best, we continue to get a pretty good indication. I wonder if I can ask a question of radar here. See winds about 58 miles per hour. Of course, you got to constantly clear this to see underneath. Half-inch hail. I still think the winds are probably stronger than that in that red core right here, but I think it's right on where the tracker pops up. Zaleski and Vinton, this is all Vinton County, in about 20 minutes on the core portion of the storm. Let me clear that off the screen for you. But just obviously we know where the strongest part of this cell is. We're not seeing that kind of color in Athens County.
No.
Yeah, there's a little bit of purple here, and Dave, also don't want to lose sight of our folks in Morgan County. Some strong winds in northeastern Morgan County.
They're still under thunderstorm warning. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. So that's that part.
Until that would be until 2:30 tonight also.
Yeah, and again, I'm using Charleston for guidance here to get a little better radar view through the hills. That's heading into Noble County. There's Stockport, southern Morgan County. The cell definitely down 33 is spread out. So what would constitute it more of a discrete cell with potential rotation is definitely beginning to drift south into Vinton County at about 35 miles an hour. So at least the Hocking-Pickaway-Ross portion of the storm, that part has expired up by Laurelville. And I think here shortly, for the most part, Hocking County is going to be behind the storm, but not if you live along the border, the county line, or within about 10 miles. So probably want to zoom in here and get a better look at where we are. Again, this is pretty rural, and the storm is headed toward Vinton and Zaleski. But we're going to get down into township roads here. County roads 184. We're just below State Route 56. If there's hail, it's right here near Siverly, County Highway 33 and 63. Just north of Stella. So now we're getting into Vinton County. If we go back up into Hocking County, then just south of South Bloomingville and to the west of Mount Pleasant is the core of this storm, and it's still pretty nasty. It probably still has some very subtle rotation in it. And again, I'll have to back this up to give you a better view. And Dave, it's probably a good idea that we show everybody that all is fine to the north and west.
Yes,
it takes a little minute for the radar to scroll back, so bear with me. But you can see that we're just dealing with showers in Newark, north of Delaware, Marysville. There's no threat for Columbus, nothing else coming in. Circleville, Lancaster, Zanesville, we're all done. This is all in the southeast now. That's where it came in from the west. We had a rough go of it between 11 and midnight, and then south between midnight and 1 o'clock. Tornadoes on the ground, undoubtedly in Fayette and Pickaway and Ross counties. We'll know more tomorrow morning. Up by McConnellsville.
That thunderstorm warning extends until 2:30 tonight.
And Dave, still we got our tornado polygons up into Vinton County. Again, I think Hocking County is just about out of the woods.
Yeah, once we get to 2:15, we should start. Now at about 2:15, we should start to see some of these going away, like in Laurelville, like you were just mentioning. And I think from Nelsonville down towards the Plains and Athens, gusty winds associated with this. But I wonder, the biggest concern is going to be the cell north of MacArthur right here, and if that continues off towards the east-southeast, towards Albany and Athens this evening, that's going to be the areas. Also, there are flood advisories in effect as well. I know it's not as severe thinking as this, but flooding kills lots of folks every year, and that's always a major concern, a big concern.
Yeah, and Dave, by the way, you may have seen this. Union Road in Laurelville looks like took a hit. We think that's where one of the many tornado touchdowns. There's significant damage. And that was from probably this cell. It's hard to tell. I mean, there are two cells.
119, that would have been that first cell, that the more northern cell.
One in Athens County.
Yep,
now.
that was the one that near Laurelville had a potential tornado also.
You're right, because the southern cell went south of Laurelville.
Yep.
So this one here, this guy here, that storm caused, and again, we probably can't possibly know the extent of the damage in Laurelville around Union Road. And we also, as I mentioned earlier, we had semis blown over here by Loves, south of Circleville. And my guess is, and we also had a touchdown based on video here. So, these two cells, especially this one, producing numerous, whether it was brief touchdowns, we hope only spotty damage, we don't know yet, or not, but it's been a very long night. The storms, we don't know if there's any damage in Franklin, Delaware, Licking counties, when we had tornado warnings, we had rotation, but the signatures were not as strong, but that's also going to take a little time. We have not received any reports. We'll know a lot more.
But we have the rainfall was intense, so that's why we have flood advisories.
I saw that.
Delaware, Franklin, Licking, Madison, and Union counties until about daybreak, about 5:45. In the morning. So again, if you're an early riser, obviously you're not getting any sleep tonight because you're still with us right now. But if roadways, especially those rural roadways, could have flooding over them from a couple of inches of rainfall that we saw earlier this evening.
We heard it pounding on our rooftop during the 11 o'clock show right after the Stanley Cup playoff game ended. And I mean, it was pouring, and I'm guessing an inch or two of rain fell in some of the cores. And yet, normally we worry about that, but I think we've been so concerned about so many storms rotating.
Exactly.
We focused almost entirely on the damaging wind and tornado threat, which, by the way, continues in Vinton County. It looks like Hocking County is being cleared of the tornado warning altogether, and that makes sense because that's what we suspected. It's pretty much Athens and
County.
Vinton counties now. Thunderstorm warning, if you're wondering what the yellow flashing polygon is, up in Morgan County, but Athens County, I mean, still, even though, yes, radar looks better in Athens County, the other thing you got to consider, though, is this cell is going to move into southwestern Athens County by Albany. So while it may not look so bad here, based on radar, this cell has a shot at continuing to spin through this portion of southwestern Athens County. So coming out of northeastern Vinton County, there's still a threat for southwestern Athens County, on the other side of OU. But still, these warnings are in effect for a little while longer, and we can query them again. But they run till at least 2:30, 2:45 on southwest side of Athens, essentially. City of Athens, or a portion of it, is in the tornado warning till 2:45, especially down around State Route 50. I know that area very well, where my son went to school, and also a little bit to the south. The tornado warning to the north till about 2:30, so not much difference in time. But as we continue to size these things up, as they come and go, get stronger, weaker cycle, develop stronger rotation, weaker rotation. I mean, there's no contest between cells that this one has got the energy and the threat of rotation. I guess we should confirm that, though, with a look at a velocity mode. And so here again, what we ascertain is turning up to be the case. There is some weak rotation, at least. This is in right just south of Hocking County into Vinton County. Not seeing anything like that anywhere in Athens County. So that's still a pretty...
That's the cell we got to watch for, though, is that one last cell right there.
But the fact Doppler radars allow us to, and our technology, which we've watched it improve over the years, and even in the last few years, has really helped us. We have big storms, we can say, what part of the storm do you have to worry about?
Exactly.
We know every part of the storm is important, but every time we've zoomed in, and then we find out after the fact that that's where the damage, if there has been damage, has occurred. So that's the advantage of all these different markers. Again, a lot of this is overhead. It doesn't mean it's on the ground, but when the markers are strong, and Dave continues to reference the BTI when we've had that, when it gets up around between 4 and 5, sure enough, that's where we've gotten reports of storm damage and quite possibly tornadic damage. So for that, Dave, I'm going to move.
One of the things I wanted to note real fast, Ben, is, and if we could maybe zoom out and just, if we could go back and show a rainfall rate. I don't know if we've got one of those that you can queue up. You may have to actually go through the menu itself to get it up. But yeah, it might be under the hydro there for, rainfall rates. That'd be perfect. And zoom it back out for a second here. I'll check what that is.
How about that? 3.85 inches per hour.
Well, that's the point. And if we could switch this over to the ILN, because I think we have the other rainfall.
Here's ILN, which being Wilmington. But if I have to go over to, this is the rain rate. Let's look at also 3-hour accumulation of rain.
Yeah, there we go. That's okay. That's
boy.
look at these paths right here. You're looking at 1, 2, 3 inches of rain possible in those areas, and we have several counties right now that are under flood advisories: Delaware, Franklin, Licking, Madison, Union, Fairfield, Hocking, Pickaway, Ross. There's reports down in Fairfield County near Stoutsville of creeks starting to flood over the roadways in that area because of all of this heavy rainfall. Ben, I mentioned earlier, I've got a weather station. I live up in Delaware County in Sunbury. I picked up 2.75 inches of rain this evening in a short amount of time, 2.75 inches of rain.
And Dave, this could be conservative because this is in the past 3 hours, and some of these storms
and if
had
there's
already
hail
begun.
too.
And there's hail. So I'm clicking around to all these areas you've mentioned, and you can see that at a minimum we've had maybe 2.5 inches of rain.
Yeah.
So it is.
That's going to be the next concern going forward, because that's going to be starting to funnel its way down into those low-lying spots and fill them up overnight tonight and into the morning tomorrow. That, along with damage that's been caused, and that, even if it's minor damage, tree damage, limb damage, stuff that gets blown into the storm drains and clogs them up as they're trying to drain that water away, that is going to be an additional concern tomorrow morning. So once this last couple of counties down in Athens and Vinton counties are out of the tornado warning, the next concern is going to be all the runoff from the rain that we had this evening, and that's going to potentially cause flooding concerns as we head into the day tomorrow, at least in the morning hours for sure. And, we're going to have to be watching out for rivers and creeks.
And it's still dark for early risers.
Yes, exactly.
I'm worried about folks taking rural roads,
not knowing
before they hook up with a 33 or 70. Where we've had 2 to 3 inches of rain, it looks like, just in the last several hours, and maybe a little bit more on saturated soils. Just getting back to full circle here, tornado warning continues till 2:45 for the area, essentially the area I've circled: southwestern Athens County, northeastern Vinton County. Hocking County's in the clear. Ross, Pickaway, all done. And everybody to the north, we're not looking up there because there is nothing more happening overnight tonight. Still a strong storm, thunderstorm warning for Morgan County. Still some heavy rain here. So that gets to what Dave is talking about, with persistent heavy rain, some ponding and flooding of creeks and streams for persistent areas. But some of these cores have just been very prolific in terms of rain producers. There's the Lusky in about 10 minutes, Knox in 20 minutes, Albany, and that's now into Athens County about 28 minutes on that particular storm. Let me move the tracker out of the way. BTI 2.8, that's half of what some of the other storms have shown for us, so that's indicating the tornado threat is cut in half, but it doesn't mean it's non-zero. In other words, we still have a threat here, although there's nothing outstanding in that particular scan compared to what we had dealt with before. We can go back and look at velocity. Incredible that it still shows a little bit of a suggestion of rotation. This is in Vinton County, and we follow this storm with rotation. This one came south of Laurelville. The Athens storm came right through Laurelville, taking slightly different pathways, east-southeast and southeast. It is actually the lead storm that caused the tornado damage, I think, on Union Road and Laurelville, and probably many other locations. That storm is not as strong as it moves through Athens County. This one still a problem for Vinton County, and the reason why it's a problem is because it's going to wind up right back into Athens County in the corner right here. So that storm is still a rotating thunderstorm, rotating updraft. It's still capable of, again, the hail has been unimpressive, which is good, I suppose, but the updrafts have been sustained by some pretty strong winds that have been changing direction with height. Nelsonville, Athens, and by that I mean this happens when winds change direction with height. It's like turning your steering wheel. So we think the core of the rotation with the storm is in Vinton County now, but it could work its way back into southwest Athens County. Flash flood warnings in Clark, Greene, Miami.
If we could switch over to WG3, I'll show that, because that's what I was. Todd, yeah, thank you very much, Todd. So you can see right here, this is 12-hour rainfall estimates on radar here, and you can see much of our area running between 1 to 2, 2 to 3 inches of rain in some of these corridors. We've had these heavier rain bands that have moved through. You can see another one of them through Franklin County near New Albany, Gahanna, over towards into Licking County, Pataskala. That could be a 2 to 3 inch rainfall band right in there. Again, I mentioned I actually picked up 2.75 inches up in my house. So already there's confirmation of that, and we're going to watch as that cell that Ben was just tracking moving through Vinton County, over Athens County, over Albany. That's where the airport's at over there. We have a weather station right there, so we'll get a good sampling of that wind speed as it crosses over there. But again, that is going to be our last big dangerous cell that we'll be watching for the rest of the night tonight. And then the flooding concern is going to be the next one. In fact, basically everything that you can see in this map right here in this big square is under some sort of flood advisory, flood warning, flash flood warning for that area. Basically the central and southern part of Ohio, right down 23 here, the 23 corridor, is all under flood advisories and warnings from all of the rainfall that we have had through the evening and overnight hours last night and into this early morning hours. So again, we have a couple of, we can switch back over back to WG5 right now because we got all the flood stuff on there. We still got tornado warnings that extend for most of Athens County. This one expires in about 3 minutes, this northern flank from Nelsonville, basically north of 33 here to Athens. But then this other cell, that's the southern part, that's the one that's going towards Albany. And Ben, I think this cell does appear, if it stays on that track, it is going to miss Athens but go down towards Albany, crossing 50 with, again, strong gusty winds. Can we pick up the velocity on that and see what the winds
are? Let's see what we have. And we're on our WG5 mode, so let me take just a second to make a couple of switches. There is the velocity mode first of all, but I do want to, as Dave asked about, this mode gives us, or this way of interrogating the storm, tells us BTI 2.8, which is lower but still significant risk of rotation. Let me clear that. Half-inch hail indicated north of MacArthur. Zaleski in about 5 minutes to Athens and 28 minutes on the fringe. 1 inch hail, 1 inch diameter hail possible also with the storm, where we see just a little bit of more of a lavender core right there. So just very impressive. Again, as Dave said, this is going to pass just to the southwest of the city of Athens through Albany and Knox and Vinton County, Albany and Athens County. That's the strongest of the two. Again, the parent storm, or the one that was out front in Athens County, is much weaker. The trailing storm continues to be a problem for the next roughly 15 minutes at least. We'll see if the tornado warning will continue after 2:45. But obviously Charleston National Weather Service has picked up the ball here from Wilmington as the storm has crossed over through and east of and southeast of the Hocking Hills. But again, we leave this up for just a moment so you get a pretty good idea of the track. I need to pull this over. There's your tornado warning till 2:45. Some of the indicators that Dave and I have been using all night indicate about a 58 mile per hour wind shear. Again, that doesn't mean that surface winds are that strong, but that's powerful. And we've been looking at this a long time. Hail size coming down to a half-inch, BTI 2.8, roughly a lower end threat of a tornado. More likely, just indication the rotation continues as the storm pushes through southeastern Vinton County. I don't know if it's going to remain as strong as it gets into southwestern Athens County. That remains to be seen. But this is the back edge. And if there's any doubt about that, we're near the end of, unfortunately, a very rough night. There's going to be a lot of damage by light of day, severe damage in the Dayton area, and I'm sure damage all the way through Fayette, Pickaway, and maybe Hocking counties. We don't know any touchdowns occurred there, and then upstream up
near Laurelville
area. And of course, Laurelville. We mentioned with the first storm, that's this one. Union Road, we know there's tornado damage here. National Weather Service confirmed tornado on the ground, radar base. But anywhere along this, let me back this up just a little bit. We have had reports of tornadoes on the ground, whether it's video confirmation or by other means, in a couple of corridors, about like so. Now, we're just going to have to see. We'll have our reporters on the ground too, checking out some of this damage. It could also be straight line wind damage. We don't know that. That's what the National Weather Service will do tomorrow or later today, send out survey teams and to see exactly what it looks like at ground level. Zaleski in about 6 minutes to Athens at 30 minutes.
And Ben, notice that northern tornado warning now for Chansey has been canceled.
Oh, it's gone, yes.
It's expired.
So, we kept saying the the bulk of the Athens County warning, at least I'll call it the US 33 part of the warning, that storm clearly had weakened. So I think, Dave, we are down literally to one storm that's a troublemaker in the sense that it still could be a potential damaging storm. Looks like what moved out of Morgan County into Noble County, by the way, is much, much weaker than we saw earlier. So coming back up, this is the last of the what we call the really dangerous cells, the one that you have to find a safe place south. But even though the tornado warning polygon goes just about to the city of Athens, at least the west side of OU, the real threat there is going to be Albany and Knox, and essentially in front of this storm. And I would suspect, we talked about this earlier, I thought with all this rain here, the rain cool there, the storm would not continue to move east-southeast, but it would start to shift more to the south-southeast, and in fact has done that, tell by the direction of the polygon. So that will nip southwestern Athens County, then it will head a little bit farther south into Meigs County, and eastern Vinton County, of course, northeast especially, still under the gun here for a tornadic storm. But I would suspect, we're seeing weaker and weaker rotation, still a potential issue right there. We've seen this all evening with these storms. Still get those tight couplets of red and green. So still probably at least a storm level or cloud level rotation. That doesn't absolutely mean there's a tornado on the ground. In fact, often, most cases it isn't. But if there is going to be a touchdown or at least some strong winds, that at least keys us in. When you're looking at a broad tornado warning with multiple counties, this kind of stuff helps us and helps you know where the most dangerous part of the storm is. And of course, the problem is we've had storm after storm after storm, and we had several at a time moving through the metro area between about 11 and 12, and then move south of US 22 between 1 and 2 o'clock. But just an incredible display of resilience, of power of these storms to rotate at night when you can't really see them. We always invoke the nighttime cooling aspect of these. That didn't work for us tonight.
No,
nighttime cooling didn't do us any good at all. Usually that diminishes the instability. If it did, it was overcome by incredibly strong wind shear, very potent system that spun its way probably into the upper Ohio Valley now. In other words, to the past or past us. But still
and it had a lot of moisture with it, too.
Yes, it did.
A lot of moisture. And it's going to be very interesting tomorrow morning as we get the light of day to actually see what kind of damage has been done with some of these storms. It looks like there's probably a minimum of 5 different areas that the Weather Service is going to have to go out and grade storm damage from tomorrow, starting from the Dayton area all the way back towards Laurelville at a minimum as of right now, basically in that track where that we've seen a couple of the tornado warnings earlier. Now, we've had storm damage and strong gusty winds between the western portion of the state down to the south and east, and we still got this one cell that we are continuing to watch. It does, Ben, I've been watching this as well from different radars, looking at the different ones. It does appear that that cell is weakening a little bit, but again, it's still a dangerous cell. This has been the case through the evening tonight. We've seen some of these cells weaken and pulse back up again, so we are going to continue to watch this. You can see though in that last scan, it did look like it weakened just a little bit more, the hail core with it. But again, if you're near Albany, you're going to see that basically, what is that, right down Highway 681. That's going to continue to travel right in towards Albany, down in the southwest corner, I'm sorry, of Athens County. So from Knox, which is in Vinton County, from the Zaleski area over towards Knox and Albany, that's going to bring that cell in. That cell is going to still have gusty winds with it. It's still going to have heavy rain. It's going to have lightning. The lightning has gone down significantly as these cells have continued to traverse our area. And I expect that most of this should start to make its way out of the state after 3 o'clock this morning. But again, left behind is going to be storm damage that we've had from these storms. Gusty winds, not even tornadic winds, but just gusty winds that have caused damage. Frequent lightning that we've had earlier today with some of these thunderstorms, or earlier yesterday, I should say, overnight with some of these storms, and very heavy rainfall. And you're going to notice there's going to be storm drains that are clogged in neighborhoods. You're going to have flooding in some roads. Some of these spots in the hills that have seen several inches of rainfall, that is also going to cause the potential of flooding. And Ben, it does appear that this cell is weakening a bit as it's making its way towards Knox and Albany. Significantly.
In Dayton, by the National Weather Service sent a statement, the tornado touched down in Dayton at 11:02.
11:02.
So again, that's by then we'd already been on the air, and that one of those supercells undoubtedly was the one that hit Laurelville, went through Fayette County.
Yep.
So I think we're going to find a storm path not continuous, of course, but the same storm had spun off multiple tornadoes. A lot of this information will come across later on tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. We'll have our crews on the scene. Again,
we've got a crew en route right now down in Pickaway County, I believe.
Love's truck stop. When we have some video, 2 semis were flipped along US 23. You and I have been down that area. Yep. That's as the storm went south of Circleville with strong rotation, a possible tornado touchdown. We don't know that for sure, but I think we're going to.
That was a cell that also in Laurelville, it does sound like had a tornado near Laurelville,
yeah,
and where the weather service will be doing damage assessment tomorrow.
And upscale in Fayette County, that tornado video. Washington Courthouse damage. Dave, take a look at this.
This was earlier from.
Watch closely. Lightning is illuminating a funnel. Dave's going to point that out, but you can see right there, every time the lightning flashes, all of a sudden you see this cone-shaped storm right there on the ground. Who knows, maybe 1/8 of a mile wide, maybe a 1/4 mile wide, or at least the funnel.
You can see it right here.
We don't know precisely, but we can certainly assume it was.
That was earlier. I should mention this is earlier. This is not right now. This is earlier this evening, this video that we got in from earlier this evening. And that was part of the same cell that continued to move across Pickaway County. Later on, that same cell, it did weaken a bit, and then it got strengthened a bit more. That one did cause some damage later on as it moved down the line. And again, a lot of us are going to be waking up down to the south and kind of picking up the pieces, looking at what had happened from overnight last night and into early this morning as these cells continue to push to the south and east. So you can see this is the last big cell that we are tracking, moving back from Vinton County into Athens County, basically down State Highway 681 right there, moving in towards Albany and Knox. That is going to still have the potential of some strong thunderstorms in that cell. Ben, if we could turn the lightning back on and see if there's a lot of lightning inside of this cell. I don't know how much is actually left right now, how much we've got left in some of these thunderstorms. You notice we don't have a whole lot showing up here right now. That is a little bit of an indication that some of these cells have weakened just a little bit, because earlier today we had to, or last night I should say, we had to declutter a lot of this by turning the lightning off because there was so much lightning and a lot of positive strike, very loud lightning that we were hearing across the area.
That 8 strikes, Dave.
That's not a lot at all.
Put this back down. Yeah, and that was, we were getting 500 lightning strikes within many of these, within 15 minutes within many of these zones. By the way, there is another cell up here that's strong, not a severe storm, along the Perry County line. So that's over by Crooksville. So we're getting some very heavy rain here. So, and that gets back to what Dave and I were talking about, the threat of some flooding in rural areas. Heavy rain still moving through, or at least moderate rain moving out of Licking County. These are not strong storms at all. In fact,
yeah, you don't notice
lightning
much
strikes are disappearing. Yeah, but these areas were worked over with 1 to 2 inches of rain, so you can bet there's going to be some high water in spots. I do see a lightning bolt by itself right there. East of Newark, so the storms, there's still a little bit of lightning with these. And then down 93 and 13, some pretty heavy rain that'll clip northern portions of Morgan County. But the tornado warning, and now it's coming up on 2:39.
There's 6 minutes left in that tornado warned cell down in Athens County.
We'll see. I would suspect that will either probably revert to a thunderstorm warning or not. But I don't see any indication. We can look at it one more time. We're losing. Yeah, there might be a little bit of broad rotation here, but we've definitely lost what we had before in terms of a tight couplet or tight banding of
where it was obvious
wind
earlier.
Yeah, and we've seen that all night with many of these storms. But there's the.
It's not to say that this storm still doesn't have gusty winds with it, possibly some small hail with it again,
right,
and heavy rainfall. So that's what we've got to be very cautious of tonight. Again, if you're down in southern Athens County, if you're in Meigs County, if you're in Vinton County, you want to make sure that you keep a very close eye on this cell as it continues to push off towards the south and east this evening. That is going to be a very strong cell at minimum that's going to continue to move into that area tonight. Again, this tornado warning, this basic triangle that we've got right there, that extends for about another 5 minutes or so until 2:45 this evening. We wanted to make sure that at this point we've been staying on the air since after 10 o'clock this evening, tracking tornado warned cells across our area. Several reports of tornadoes across the region, starting from the Dayton metro all the way back to near Laurelville this evening, that we've had reports of possible tornadoes. So We've had multiple tornadoes, lots of gusty winds, reports of hail, multiple reports of hail, heavy rainfall this evening. So we're going to stay on the air and continue for at least the next 5 minutes, see what happens with this cell right here. But again, if you're in the far southwest corner of Athens County, you've got a pretty strong little cell right there that's moving through right now that has had a history of being a very dangerous cell. We've also got additional rain showers right now from Marion through Delaware County, areas that have had a lot of rain already, and then back into Knox County. Not as much strong storms in Knox County earlier, but you've still got showers and a couple of rumbles of thunder up in that area, and then into northeastern corner of Licking County, most of the northern half of Muskingum County, and most of Coshocton County, also some rain, and then moving back into eastern portions of Guernsey County, that is, just over to the east of Quaker City and Cambridge. And then again, these are the two cells that we're watching down in Athens County. Both of them were tornado warned earlier this evening. Now we just have one tornado warning left, and that extends until 2:30 to 2:45 tonight. And this cell will continue to push down into Meigs County. And Ben, I think at minimum with that cell, we're probably going to end up seeing maybe a thunderstorm warning out of that cell.
Yeah, I doubt they'll go from tornado warning to no warning at all.
It is the cell does show indications of weakening, though. We don't see that rotation as much anymore with that cell that we did earlier.
It's kind of spreading itself out, and as we might expect here after this time. And there's no, and that's not to say this isn't a potent storm, but it's not looking like it did before. Our wind shear path very clear, and now you can actually see again the two parallel supercells that we tracked. See that? Both had separate wind shear paths, and the hail again was not significant, but the wind shear, and this is where we think this storm was definitely tornadic. Don't know about that one. We won't know till tomorrow morning, but this actually was tornadic all the way back in Fayette County. So I think all this, where the wind shear was most intense, is where we're going to find the tornado touchdowns. And we are going to be wrapping up at 2:45.
Yep, the tornado warning for Athens, Meigs, and Vinton County will be expired in 2 minutes at 2:45 tonight.
And remember, it's not, while we came on the air at 10 as the storms began to cross Interstate 75, you and I had this conversation between around 9 o'clock. Easily 15 tornadoes in Indiana, 10 or 15 in Iowa and Illinois. This has been one long chain of storms. Maybe 60, 70 tornadoes will have come out of this particular storm, and this very bad night for some. I'm going to spread this out a little bit. This kind of gives us that last look at what has transpired. And Dave joining me now here at the weather switch and with this time lapse, which shows first of all that we're out of danger. Obviously, there's going to be some localized flooding. This has to be one of the worst tornado outbreaks that I've ever tracked in terms of just the sheer volume of warnings. We don't know about the damage. Obviously, we've had some bigger tornadoes.
Like near Dayton, also there's some good damage. We've heard about a lot of big damage in Dayton.
That may wind up being an EF2 or
larger, possibly.
Or possibly, I mean,
we'll have to see. I mean, we heard stuff from social media, and everyone knows that sometimes things tend to get a little over exaggerated sometimes on social media. But we saw some of the pictures and video on Twitter of just sheet metal just wrapped around, and that could be straight lines sometimes. But we had reports of confirmed tornadoes in that area, and
we have some of that Dayton damage. Dave.
Yeah, you can see from some of this. This appears to be a home out in that area near Dayton, and you can see the damage that was structural damage that was done. Now, again, without knowing, just looking at video, it's difficult to assess whether it's a 0, 1, 2, or 3. This looks like somewhere in the range of about a 1 to a 2 EF2 possible tornado, just based on the roof being ripped off in this house. You notice a lot of tree damage in the yard, and then the windows obviously smashed in. Again, if you have, this will be something that the storm survey crews go out tomorrow, because
we may not even know tomorrow, because there are going to be so many areas. I've seen a few events like this where it has taken 2 or 3 days to count 10, 15 tornadoes. And Dave, behind us, before we wrap up here in the next minute, that's the Dayton cluster of storms. Yeah. But just watch, I'm going to move my hand out of the way, and just watch how everything moved. Of course, we had tornado warnings in Franklin County, Delaware County, Union. I mean, there were multiple lines or clusters of storms, and now it's starting to weaken here after 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning in our time lapse. But it's taken that many hours, not counting the 6 hours or more as the storms came out of Illinois and Indiana, Chicago, Peoria. So, this is...
It's been a wild
night. It's like a derecho, but these are tornadoes. I mean, in terms of just the sheer, we're talking 600-700 miles of storm damage.
So overnight tonight, obviously, we've got our 4 o'clock newscast starting in an hour and 24 minutes, or an hour and 14 minutes from right now. Meteorologist Bob Nunnally is right behind us getting ready for the 4 o'clock show. We are going to have crews out throughout the area assessing and getting video and pictures in from damage. You could always send those in. You could use our Storm Team 4 weather app. There is a sharing feature right inside the app, so you can share pictures via that. Again, just one of the things I want to stress, with flooding, that's going to be a concern starting in the morning hours, starting right now. But again, when folks get up, also down trees, down power lines.
You can't possibly see now. If you're going out before sunrise and you're on a rural highway or road or your driveway, you may not even know something is down. You're going to have to really be aware of your surroundings.
And you've got to be careful. It's like, I mean, you have a big flooded area and you have a down power line. It's like putting, a blow dryer into a bathtub. It's that kind of danger. You don't want to be around that. So you've got to take extra caution if you're going to be out early in the morning. And then tomorrow's going to be a cleanup day, a warm cleanup day.
And we think, again, it should be dry. Fayette County, Pickaway County, Ross County, these areas into Hocking County took hard hits, the Dayton area, and maybe some more. So Dave and I are going to wrap up here. It's about 2:47. It's been a long 4 to 5 hours. Hopefully we've conveyed information using all our technology, and we appreciate all the spotter reports.
And Bob will be back in about an hour and 13 minutes and update you on the forecast for the rest of Tuesday and the rest of this warm week ahead. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us this evening. Hopefully everyone had a safe evening, and we'll join you back here in about an hour for NBC4 at 4 o'clock.
Have a good night.